today.
Can I ask what group this is?
This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting.
And you start at 6,
We
correct?
do, yes.
We start at 7.
Start at 6:30 special.
We're having a special meeting for violations at 6.
Oh, well, I'm not a
This is the one, right, this one I got, this is the one that I went for.
Okay, but it's a public meeting.
But I did not see,
And
I
I
did not
don't
see
see
this.
new business listed on here.
On the regular meeting agenda, new business, we have the Town of Winchester, Pratt and Lewis Street culvert repair, and the Zacchio 114 Shore Drive Road sprinkler.
And you add something to new business?
We cannot.
Thank you very much, Josh, I appreciate it, thank you.
What are
I saw you over at the Mexican restaurant.
Yes,
Yes.
actually, we just ran
Oh my
into each
gosh, I'm
other.
so full. Yeah.
What are you looking to discuss before the commission tonight?
So I had a dock. My mom and dad got rid of the dock. And now, and I know that I had to go through all of this, but I don't live in Connecticut and I'm actually in Georgia, so I just happened to be here for a week.
If you, will you be here tomorrow?
Yes.
If you can come into the office,
Okay.
Pam and I can walk you
Pam
through.
spoke with me about this, but again, it's kind of crazy.
We can walk you through it in person in the office and you want to stick around for the whole evening if you don't want to.
Okay, that would be lovely.
Yes.
Okay, so I won't take up your time at this meeting. but it was severe. I actually found a picture of me when I was 13 standing on the dock.
Good.
So it's like, it was there, mom just didn't swim, so she didn't want one. So she got rid of it, right in 1993.
Next to Sturkey's, that's where you are?
Next door,
Yeah.
next door.
So we can figure that out, see what we have in our records and see where we can go
And
from
I
there.
can bring that stuff with me. Okay, wonderful. What time tomorrow?
I'm in between, anytime between 8 and
Sorry,
1
what?
tomorrow. So,
Find you here in
yes, we will be just past that kind of doorway arch where the hallway narrows, take a right. and that's plenty.
6:22, yeah.
Have a good meeting.
Thank you very much.
Visiting
as well.
ants
Yeah.
At 6:14, and they
No,
said,
it's a new.
they looked like I was the Gestapo. So I didn't get out. And they said,
Either
tomorrow,
one of those two numbers,
you can't find it.
no, one of the two numbers that he cited was.
Ooh, more paper.
They were doing a lot of work. They completely moved the house, lifted the house, and they had all permission for that. But a lot of them had it also, because the owner of the house gave his neighbor permission to.
Okay, yeah, these aren't.
Just before Thanksgiving.
Side of his property, he has a violation.
Process was to get it back.
I don't know if she's
She's
there
there
now.
now.
If
She
he
gets it.
doesn't suggest it in the August, then for August, then he can be served by marshal.
This is the docks for
That's, yeah.
West Wakefield. This is 348.
Look at that.
Yes, it
That's
is.
probably why they put us next to each other.
You don't need.
I got
People look too quick, they'll just see one of us maybe.
I'll do this meeting, but we wanna move the
Oh,
town.
no, I'm not taking it,
Under-
right, I'm not accepting
right after the
responsibility.
Terry Ann, your brother's
So
all
we're gonna
finished with
move
his
the
project?
Bart's culvert repair, yeah.
I don't know. So if the commission will indulge the town during the regular meeting
To go
and,
first with that,
yeah, up after public hearings, I don't know if this is going forward,
if
the
what?
public hearing.
Oh, yeah, the Gonzalez.
Yeah.
That's
I got-
that's
I've got-
history, that pile is history.
I believe, I
Oh,
thought
okay.
Mr. Gonzalez was
But
asking
that's
for
what we're talking about.
continuance and there wasn't going to be.
Did you hear from,
No, he can't, there's still time. So long as there's time,
did you
want
hear
it.
from the Beckers?
I did, but we won't discuss that.
Okay, as long as they called.
Oh, no, I didn't hear from him
Oh.
to see.
Oh, I thought,
Nope, and I didn't even give them a thought, to be honest. You would think
Good.
that'd be forefront of my mind with that email, and I didn't.
no, I just,
Right.
like I said, you call us.
But I
not
would
calling
have
you.
nothing to tell them, because I
Okay,
haven't heard.
we didn't know, good.
So he may be here, he may not be here.
You weren't here last month.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, you were?
No.
For the regular meeting?
What meeting was I? Oh, no, I wasn't. No. I was at the meeting.
That's fine.
Hey,
Sun's
Russ,
still
is that your Starbucks cup?
Yes.
It's someone's from Wetlands last month.
We're doing white stripes?
How's it going?
Good.
Good, Russ, how you doing?
Not too bad.
Grady doesn't like Starbucks. Hey, Russ?
Yes.
Is that your Starbucks cup?
You know, yes, it is.
All right.
And my wife was like, "Look for the mug." I'm like, it's not gonna be there. It was like a month ago.
Oh.
Well, there's Winston.
You doubt
And
so
there it
much.
is. Well, the
No
janitor
one wants
would've found
Starbucks.
it. Yeah. Well, it's actually just my stepdaughter, so it was her favorite one.
Yeah, so maybe.
Yeah, I'll get you.
You're gonna forget it, you're gonna forget it again.
Yeah, I'll probably forget again. Yeah, I need everybody's help.
I'm impressed that we have nobody in our violation ordinance. This is amazing.
But they're not here yet. They'll be
Yeah.
here. All
Yeah.
right. We've
The
had visitors.
parking was packed out front.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Bet you
What
got
was
a
that
place
meeting
right in
going on
front,
in there?
did you, Rick?
That was me.
No, I parked in the back because I live on Wheeler Street, so I kind of hooked down around the back.
Because I parked down at Honey Bunny, and
Right.
then I got here and there was a parking space right in front.
Right, oh, it's made to be.
I wanna feel
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, you're right.
I'm like, I'm hardly
Right.
here, so. Where did you say you were supposed
Right, yeah, closer toward the corner across the street.
You're right, I was at the May meeting, that one was pretty heated
What?
too.
Quite a few.
June, I was in California.
At the same time, yeah.
I remember years ago.
But I thought the May meeting was heated.
No,
What's
there's
that?
been months that are a lot more heated. A while back, she was saying she remembered the May meeting was pretty heated. I'm like, no, it doesn't score as one of the more heated ones.
Do you know if Mr. Timony is going to be here to the meeting?
He's running 5 or 10 minutes late.
Oh,
So he'll.
well, we have a quorum to start.
But we have nobody
Do we
here
wanna
to,
start?
we have no one here to talk to.
Yeah, hold on one second, let me just make sure we're live, and I think we are, but just, and then Michael can begin to review. He's been very busy.
Sand.
Been an active month. Very rainy, very active month.
Oh, sure.
Definitely rain. Definitely rain.
Wow, it was supposed to rain a couple hours this afternoon.
Yeah, I know.
No, it never did. I was down in Reading. It was raining a lot down there.
Was it? Yeah, the coast seemed to, the map on the news tonight had a lot of rain down south.
The kids still had that haze though today. Do you know last night, I was,
We had 10 days.
yeah, fire.
You know, I smell fire.
Timony, how are you?
Hi, sir. Immaculate Mary and Harmonton, and then
Somewhere, and I
Kurt,
said,
how you doing?
fire.
That's why it's so busy.
Oh, and I said, I smell fire. And that's real, really.
It was fresh stuff. The kids had started fighting.
it is fancy as a teacher. And
Packed house.
they're-
Pam, you ready?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, no?
Yes.
I'd like to call the Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission meeting to order for July 21st, 2021. This is a 6 PM. It's a special meeting agenda. I'd like to make the roll call. Steve Molinelli present, Russ Davenport,
Present.
Jackie Mulvey,
Present.
Andrea Kowicki,
Present.
Jeff Lippincott,
Present.
Mary Ann Marino,
Present.
Kurt Timoney, and acknowledge that we still have 2 vacancies on our, for our board. We have a show cause hearing for Robert J. Leach and Jennifer A. Leach with a cease and desist order. The location of the project is 348 East Wakefield Boulevard, map 32, block 105G, lot 304-307. And the violation is an additional boat lift.
If the police commission, I have some pictures, and for those who have driven by and those who haven't, 348 East Wakefield, the numbers do get a little bit messy in the mid-300s, but
Thank you.
this is right at the end of that small cove. And as you can see, the dock that is associated with the house 348 does have 2 canopies. There are 2 boats parked under those canopies, both of them, and as you can see, those are both functional lifts. You can see the wheels, the manual hand crank wheels there. Now, I believe in communications with the Leaches, there was some claim by Mr. Leach that one of these was supposed to be a jet ski lift. However, the boat being parked under it somewhat invalidates that claim as of this time. That's all I have right now. unless the
I think
commissioners
that's
budget
an
field
objective
conditions.
presentation of what's in front of the waterfront. I think without referring back to minutes, but I believe sometime a year ago, probably last summer, this address had the same configuration of boat lifts in the water, and the homeowner was called, I think, into a meeting or by Pam to articulate the fact that he was only entitled, he was at a meeting, that he was only entitled to one boat lift and a jet ski lift. The owner at the time, my recollection says that he said that he didn't have the funds to purchase the jet ski lifts, and our response was, that's not our concern. He went through all of last summer in violation of the ordinance. He was warned somewhere, I'm going to say in May or June, where a communication was sent by myself to Pam to alert him to his situation, the way it presently appeared in the water, and that we were concerned that he should do something to either put jet ski under the lift or remove the lift. And I don't think there was a response. I know there was some kind of correspondence, but I don't recall what he said to you in regard to that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to venture to characterize it.
The
'cause I
bottom
don't
line
remember.
is, this has been going on for a year and several months. I believe the homeowner is defiant, because clearly at the meeting that he was present at, where he was petitioning for some other improvements on his property, he was told that he was in violation. He was told what the remedy needed to be. I think we were silent in taking action on it. I think he's just abusing our silence to the point where it's still in the water, and it's still the way he wants it to be and not the way he's permitted to be. And I think it's incumbent on this commission, as a commission, to decide whether or not we want to take any action at all. Do we want to leave him alone and let him continue defying the ordinance? I'm looking for some kind of input and direction.
You did see the mechanism in the pontoon lift, that the operating mechanism, because it seems to me, I think I was presenting something at that meeting, and it seems to me he said something about it wasn't a working lift and that all the guts were taken out.
No, there is, by the rules of curtilage, without a permit, I can't go onto the property except in the driveway, the path to the front door, or the street, which is why the images are as distant as they are. So I was not able to view underneath that canopy. I cannot say for certain if they have been stripped out and if it is just a canopy. The wheel, the hand crank wheel, is still attached.
I can see that,
You
yeah.
can see that. And the canopy itself, being a structure in the water, is also in of itself somewhat problematic in that
Just thinking, is that even relevant, that whether the mechanics are there or
Yeah,
not?
that's what I was wondering too.
I don't, based on the readings I have done of the dock and mooring ordinance, I do not believe so. I believe that the structure existing as a covered canopy in the water, regardless of its functionality, is still a violation.
Okay.
What is that under this white canopy?
For
I-
The
protection.
pontoon boat.
It's a pontoon boat.
It looks like
It's a pontoon boat.
grass is,
It's a
oh, I
pontoon.
see.
Oh, it's the
grass is
tree.
there.
Yeah, it's
It's,
Okay.
there's
perspective.
a tree in front of it, and it's a pontoon
Got it.
boat.
So we need to have him remove it, so what's the procedures? Do we
I
have
think,
it removed and then send him an invoice? I mean, do we?
she raises an interesting point.
She
in
does,
that
absolutely.
If he's in violation and refusing to take action, I think that's maybe one step that we can't go in that kind of direction. I think, though, we're obligated to inform him again of his violation. I think give him a reasonable amount of time to remove the violation. I would say not more than a week, my suggestion. And at that point, I think there should be some kind of formal fining that's within our protocol, our province to impose. And again, if this were something new for this summer, I think we would take a different kind of strategy, but this is on from last summer, through all last summer, and through the beginning of this summer, and continues to be defiant, even to the point where the gentleman and his, or the
They
homeowner.
haven't received notice. I saw, he happened to come, I'm just gonna interject, so defiant, he learned just before the meeting. I saw him out in the hallway and I just had a sense that he wasn't on his way in here. He had just come from the meet and greet with the new town manager. Cease and desists are issued to where you get your tax bills. He gets his tax bills not here in Winchester. So he hasn't signed the green card yet. So officially, he's not been noticed. When that happens, you know, at this meeting, because you have 10 days, we would serve, and I let him know, so he knows that he'll be served by a marshal for the August meeting.
Okay, and just going back in my, I don't save a lot of emails or stuff like that, and I'm not into that. But on April 16th, there was an email from Pam to the homeowner. Hi, Bob. Please see the attached communication regarding the jet ski lift at 345 East Wakefield Boulevard. Any questions, please feel free to contact me directly. This is on April 16th. There's a window that I can't open up, but in conversation with Pam,
I gave you copies of it.
yeah, my sense is that he knows from April 16th that we're looking at his violation, and we're talking July 21st, 4.5 months later, and we're still looking at his violation.
Well, but Steve, can we legally do anything now if he hasn't received his notice?
For this meeting, he hasn't received his notice.
He hasn't signed for his notice?
We can check with Neller, but I'm pretty sure fines can be issued a daily, or what, you looked at that the other day,
The fee schedule?
fines.
No,
Fines get-
can we find him without him receiving a notice about this meeting?
That's a question for Attorney Nelligan.
What is the procedure to fine, and are there caps?
There is a cap per day. We're looking at, I believe it is either $100 or $150 for each instance of violation for each day until the violation is removed. And in certain cases of continued noncompliance in the face of fines, those can go up to $1,000 per day per the Connecticut general statutes on this. So we're looking at around 100 to 150 a day. Now, when those go into effect, we would have to confirm with the attorney. It may not start until after a period of time after he has been officially served notice. But a motion made at this meeting today could be made with the wording such that such fines would not go into effect until the appropriate amount of time after notice.
Who would issue an official notice, okay?
Okay.
Can that be done tomorrow?
As in, when you say would issue the official
Can you
notice?
generate a letter informing the homeowner that he's in violation and that he has 10 days to remedy the violation, or we will begin imposing a fine at the end on the 11th day?
I mean, that is the letter that is on the way.
Well, cease and desist, so we can get the form from Kevin Nelligan, take your direction, you know, have Kevin Nelligan draft whatever letter will communicate that fines are gonna begin to accrue on day 11.
So my sense is we're willing, I think, to give him the benefit of the doubt until he officially received notice. And then once that letter is generated, how would he receive it? Would it be registered
Well,
mail?
Certified mail
No.
or
Yeah, but I mean, you don't wanna say that given the benefit of the doubt notice. I mean, I've talked to him, so you know he knows. So I believe that he can begin issuing fines.
Starting?
It could be tomorrow.
Well, is it official that you talked to him in the hall?
it's not official in terms of the cease and desist because it's not proper notice, but I mean, generally, a cease and desist has to be served 10 days prior, you have to have a hearing within 10 days. But fines don't necessarily have to wait for a cease and desist.
Well, I mean, he's been told he was in violation since
From April, you know,
last year.
You just want to be mindful that enforcement, to the greatest extent possible, is going to be consistent. So that means,
If we choose to apply this way, it sets a precedent.
oh, hang on, Jeff, go ahead, Kurt.
Just to clarify, I'm a little confused, just for the point. Are we saying we cannot have a canopy if it's unfenced and it is? Because I thought we could. I thought we could have one boat lift and one boat canopy. And you're saying you can't, right?
He can have one boat lift,
Uh-huh,
he can have a double jet ski lift,
okay,
but he's gotta have jet skis under that apparatus.
okay. I thought one
you
time, right there.
can't have a canopy on a jet ski lift.
You cannot have a why?
So is that the defining,
I'm just confused because I just thought, right?
but is that,
One thing right there.
Maybe I'm
I didn't know
wrong, maybe I'm
that.
right.
You know what,
Yeah.
I don't wanna drag this whole conversation on. I think
Yeah.
we've acknowledged the fact that he's in violation. We've acknowledged the fact that he's had more than fair warning. I think it's time for us to act as a commission as to, do we wanna begin imposing the fine tomorrow? Or do we wanna give him some kind of 2 or 3 days to remedy the situation and then impose the fine?
I don't know legally if we've given him, if he didn't have a chance to present here.
Well,
I
Jeff,
agree with you.
Jeff,
I
we-
agree with you.
Jeff, we
Just
met-
that the
we-
guy
we
knows
met with
about
him.
it and all that stuff, and he's known that he should have removed that. But I don't know the legality. If he hasn't received notice that there's a hearing today about it, and he didn't receive notice that he had something to present here, then it's just the legal
Well, then-
standpoint.
I'm
Then
just
I-
gonna, I'm
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say, Kevin Nelligan will tell us what's legal or not, so I think we can rely on him. But I do think, I remember the meeting last year with him, and so this has been going on for a really long time. So I would say that we should start fining him. I think it would be, I think if we wanna build goodwill, which is probably a good idea, we should give him, 2 or 3 days to get it out,
Yeah, I
and
think
then we can start fining.
You know what, there's two.
It's not an easy thing either. It's
well,
not
two-
easy to move that thing in and out.
well, I
It,
think,
it is, Jeff. You can get the guy with the boat with the crane and
Two
take it out.
comments. One, I question why he didn't know about the meeting tonight, number one. And number two, I think goodwill goes both ways. If 700 other families on the lake see us asleep at the wheel with one violator, the goodwill is, why can't I have it?
I totally agree.
You know,
And
so
I'm-
it's like,
my
you know, I'm
my goodwill that I'm suggesting is the form of 2 to 3 days from tomorrow before he starts to get fined. I'm not, but if you don't agree with me,
No,
if the commission doesn't agree with me, that's
I
fine.
initiated that conversation. Should we give him a few days to remedy the situation? Or do we want to start to impose a fine immediately?
no, I'd always think it's smart to give somebody
Another 2
a
weeks.
3 or 4 days to do something, and then it does build that goodwill to say, look, okay, well, we did give you plenty of time before all this. Then when we formally met, we gave you a few more days here to try to get this going. We understand stuff happens, but that's it. Because we've spent a lot of time
And I
on
don't wanna
this,
spend any-
and we've
you know.
given him plenty of opportunities. I don't want to get in another situation where we go back and forth for tit for tat, whether trying to define a lift here. He's going to come back and say, this is a jet ski lift, and we're going to waste, I don't say waste, but we're going to discuss it for a long time. And I feel like at the end of that discussion, the same thing is going to happen. It's going to still be a boat, and
I think, I
gonna
think,
be a problem.
in response, let's assume it's a jet ski lift. Then you can't put a pontoon boat under it.
yeah.
You can only put jet skis under it. So he's got to find some place to put his pontoon boat.
Well, jet skis go on top of a lift, not under them. They go on top of the
Yeah,
apparatus
and then they
you
lift
crank
up,
them
right.
out.
Well,
Yeah.
same idea. So he's got to find someplace else to put his pontoon boat.
And I agree
Why
that
don't-
we should start getting, you know, now we have an enforcement officer, we should be very decisive and very clear and stick to our guns, because precedent is going to apply to all 329 other houses on the lake.
Okay, and he's forcing us to do this, not the other one. We're not
I agree.
imposing our
Yeah,
will. It's like
I agree.
we're just, we are bound to enforce these moorings and dock regulations. Everybody has to follow, and it's fair. We've got to be fair to all the other people that do play by these rules,
Exactly.
right?
Can we have a motion to what we wanna do?
I'll make a motion, to start the fine immediately, tomorrow, but give them do you wanna give them 3 days to remove the boat lift?
Okay.
And if it's not removed, then start the fines.
The fines would be retroactive until tomorrow.
Okay.
So
that-
we give him until effective Monday?
Yeah, give them the weekend.
And if he
With the
comes and
state
says,
and-
well, you know, I've had it a year, let me have some time, say, no, we have a new enforcement officer, and we will be more stringent, and that will set precedent
Okay.
at the lake.
Question,
And then you have-
Andrea, the fine in the dollar value of?
Is there
Maximum.
a standard, 100?
I think 100 is the.
100.
Whatever the maximum is, we should,
Mike, would
because
you read the motion back?
Certainly, motion made by Andrea, we currently don't have a second, to start a fine in the value of, would we like to do 100 or 150? I
100.
think we'd do
I
100.
would say 150.
Okay.
I think it's 100 though, for some reason.
I know it's definitely 100.
Oh.
150 is stuck in my mind
I'm
for
just
some reason.
suggesting that we find the maximum.
I understand, but I think it's 100.
Um,
Why don't we
And it would just say
decide
maximum.
either or?
maximum. So motion
ahead.
made by Andrea
Andrea.
Kowicki to start the fine at the maximum value after 3 days, which means effective Monday.
Okay, what
Until
would Monday's date be, July?
that if today is Thursday the 21st,
Today's Wednesday.
Today's
26th.
Wednesday.
Monday's
26th.
the 26th.
Effective Monday the 26th. Retroactive, if it's not removed by the 26th, I think you said, then the fine would be retroactive to tomorrow,
Retroactively applied.
right? Second is Jackie. Any discussion on the motion? Go ahead, Jeff.
You guys have got a lot of history with this guy. I don't go back a year or so with him. I just thinking it's a little harsh stance for my liking, but again, I don't have the history that you guys do, so.
Okay.
You know, you go
Yeah.
back, you've been battling with him for a year and a half. So,
Yeah, and it's not just him, it is, for me, Jeff, it's the precedent issue, because there are a lot of people on the lake who take advantage and do things that are anti the
absolutely
ordinance, and if we don't start being stronger about enforcement, it's just gonna continue to slip.
Man, I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I've
you know,
heard
I'm
people
just,
say,
you know, you
oh,
guys
let
are
the
saying
town
that-
fine me, I'll just pay the bill, right? We have a lot of wealth on the lake, and I've heard people take that
That's
stance.
not worth $150 a day.
Well,
That-
exactly.
that doesn't
So
cover
that's
your
why I
boat.
say, let's take those comments to task.
See how much money.
He was here. He was just here.
So the violation is 100 then, is that why you're giving
No,
this?
I'm giving that to you to show you that it can't have a canopy, just to show you
Oh,
what
oh, the
constitutes
canopy part.
a jet ski lift, A through D, at the top of page 8.
The fine value is under 14.3C, which states the penalty for violation of these regulations includes but is not limited to issuation of a citation by the enforcement officer in the amount of $150 for each violation for each day such violation continues. Ultimately, under Connecticut statutes 22A-42G, fines of $1,000 for each violation, but that's if continued noncompliance. So 150 is the maximum value.
Okay.
Per day.
For
Per
Pam's,
day.
for Pam's purposes, read back the motion. We have a second with
I
Jackie.
have it on the audio.
Oh, you have it,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Any other opinions on before we vote? All those in favor of this motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm gonna abstain.
Yes or no?
I think no.
1 no, and no
Are you
abstentions.
no or abstain?
He said no.
I think I'll abstain.
Oh, you abstained?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have an.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking that's,
So
Uh,
601.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, positive, 1 abstention.
Yep. got
Okay.
it.
Where did you say that was?
On
Right
the
here.
top of page
Right on
A,
where she
A
had it.
through,
It's item
8.
E
8 and 9.
on page 8.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item B. The owner is Mary Daigle. There's a cease and desist order. The address is 353 East Wakefield Boulevard, block 32, map 32, block 105G, lot 339-340, dumping sand in the lake.
So this one's pretty straightforward.
You know where it's going. It's not in
It's,
there.
this one's a big pile of
Not in there
sand.
yet, but it's, you think, where do you think that's going?
So yes, this is a very large pile of sand that has been sitting there since the 21st of June. As soon as I drove past that, we sent we called to say don't keep doing that. We were informed by neighbors. This does not look like the first pile of sand that's gone into the lake. It looks like there's sand that went in before. There is immediately to the left of this picture, there is a small retaining wall. Looks like sand was pushed over that. It also looks like there is sand in the water right behind this as well. The individual who called me, who lived across the street in one of the nearby houses, stated that she saw 2 such other truckloads that were put in the lake, though I cannot confirm that as I did not witness it. It's a very large pile of sand.
All right, were they informed of this meeting tonight, Pam?
Yes, and I believe we got the green card. Can we just confirm that date?
So this is for the, not 308, this is sand in the lake. We do have the certified mail receipt. We do have the green card there.
So
They have received it.
They have received it.
Yes.
Is there a date on that?
The date on that for receipt is 7/15/2021.
It informed them of the violation or informed them of our meeting tonight?
Yes, so this was the cease and desist and restore
Both.
order. Both informs them of the violation, ordering them to stop, and invites them to appear today.
Okay.
Though it does note in the letter, you are hereby invited to appear before the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission at 7 p.m.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
okay.
You might want to check that on all of them.
I think in fairness, at this point,
Does say that.
So we should wait until 7.
we should wait until 7 if they appear. I'd like to put them first on the agenda and get it over with and be polite and, give them the benefit of the doubt of being on time.
So, Mike, is there sand in the water? It has not been pushed in the water?
That
from what I can
sand
see.
hasn't been pushed in the water.
Okay.
I believe that looking around there, I can see that the bottom of that lake area looks sandy.
So we just want them to take it out. They can dispose of it somewhere else.
This pile, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we're not gonna,
But
they're
what
not gonna take it
about-
out of the
No,
lake. That's-
What about what about the stuff that's in the lake? When the lake gets drawn down, do we ask them to take the sand out?
Is that more disturbance?
We can discuss it later on. I think the less disturbance we cause to the lake body and the lake floor, it may be more prudent just to leave it, but that will be a discussion if we want it.
I'll tell you what, I've been there for 5 years now, and I've never seen a pile like that. This jumped right out at me. I could go by it 4, 6, 8
It's been there
times.
for
What's your
No, this
scientific
has,
opinion?
I've never seen one before.
Oh, before that,
For
yeah.
the last 5 years. So
Yeah.
whatever else is in the lake
Yeah.
is before my 5 years, so.
Yeah, so my scientific opinion about the big pile of sand
No,
being
the
pushed in
sand that's already been
of
put in there.
the sand that's already been put in there.
Like,
what
does
are
it make
you-
sense to remediate at the drawdown or to leave it be? What's better
That's-
for the lake?
What's better for the lake? That's interesting. When it's drawn down, so the drawdown's not going to happen until
October.
October.
November.
It's not going to happen until the cold months, and at that point, there's going to have been that sand in the lake for a significant amount of time. Ideally, when we restore, we want to restore to prior conditions, but most people don't have photography of what the lake bottom looks like prior to that. What we could do is we could ask for a withdrawal of so many cubic feet off the top, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that we're only taking non-native material, right? It's going to be imperfect no matter what, because the nature of sand is it just kind of spreads out like a shoal. It definitely wouldn't say take it out now. from a precedent standpoint, there is a question of, are people allowed to have beaches at Highland Lake? And the answer has always been, no, you can't have your own beach, and you can't create your own beach, and you can't take a lake. The commission might want to consider, if no action about removing the sand is taken, and people just start pushing sand into the lake, if everyone, is there really anything stopping anyone from pushing sand in the lake and making their own beach if it's not made to be taken out?
What is, the rest of
I
the?
don't know how often it really happens.
I,
So excuse me,
A lot.
Hang on.
Oh, all right.
Mrs. Daigle's son, Sean, is here on her behalf, if
Okay.
you'd like to invite him up, right? Or is Mrs. Mary Daigle coming?
No, my mom's actually, she was, ironically, she was having surgery.
Come on up.
I was surprised if I fixed it.
Would you come?
Yeah, if you wanna come up, just
forward,
so that they can hear you.
Introduce yourself,
Hi, who are you, Sean Daigle? My
and
parent-
can I assume that you're representing your mother?
Mary Daigle,
You are?
Sean Daigle. her
Okay,
son.
but you're representing and you're speaking on your mother's behalf?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
353 East Wakefield.
All right, our concern is that our agent has found that there's a significant amount of sand piled up just prior to the lake waterfront, and we're concerned that that sand does not wind up in the lake.
Yes, sir.
There seems to be some evidence that there's been sand at a prior date put in the lake in that particular waterfront also. But we're concerned about what's on land now, and we want to be sure that it doesn't go anywhere near the lake. And that's why your mother was asked to appear before us.
Well, first, I apologize. I know ignorance isn't a defense, but my dad handled this with Mr. Eisner in the past. I think it was Eisner Scott.
Yeah.
And we're talking like 10 plus years ago. Obviously, I'm getting older. Not old enough for mom to yell at me, though, so here I am. But, you know, this is more just embarrassing. It's not a reflection of my mother. I was trying to surprise her, and obviously I didn't go through the proper chain of command. So that's, I just want to understand, you know, how can I, hindsight 2020, I realize. So, if there is a repercussion, obviously I.
Mike, what's the remedy?
well, the sand that's there should be removed.
Okay.
The longer the sand is there, the more the grass underneath it's going to die, which means that the slope's going to be destabilized, so it may need to be temporarily stabilized and reseeded. We don't want the sand that's there going in the lake. Then anything else about getting sand out of the lake, you can't really pull sediment out when there's water over it, so we would have to wait till the next drawdown anyway. At that point, I'm truly not certain what the correct thing to do is for the overall health of the lake. The commission could ask for any obviously non-native sand to be removed, but it's not necessarily going to be obvious at that point.
Can you tell us when the last time sand was put in prior to this load? Are we
10
talking
years ago.
10
11
years ago?
My dad passed away around 11 years ago, so my mom was basically saying fill that hole from the jet skis.
Okay.
Filtering it out, so quite frankly, I was trying to.
The rest of that
So
code,
I thought I was being proactive for once in
Yeah.
11 years, you know, so, but again, as far as the land that's under it, it's all significantly eroded. I mean, anyone that's here knows, like, my mom's land, it's, you know, we've had it for 20 years, and you can see where it's all eroding, so you know, frankly, I was gonna come in front of the board and actually find out, like, you know, what's the course of action there, 'cause it's about this far from the road now. You know, so at some point, 50 feet, about this far from the road is
Oh, so you're losing your frontage essentially.
100%. It's bad.
Sounds like a lake wall repair. Have you done you've
No,
owned it?
quite frankly, though, where the sand is not an issue.
No, but when's the last time you did a lake wall repair? Have you ever gone?
20 years ago.
I think where the sand is, there's no lake wall.
There is not.
There's no lake wall
It
there.
was a piece of land that my mom had purchased from someone who had just that little, so we wanted the continuous
wanted, okay.
And then we had actually had sold 25 feet or 50 feet on the other side that was next to our other neighbor.
So you lost 50 feet of water?
Oh my
Of
God,
depth?
yeah, you're welcome to go out there. It's more significant when you do the drawdown. You know, and again, I own Mass Central Railroad, so, I mean, I'm not really, there's no excuse to not be up here helping Mom, but I haven't been around much, and I was, hopefully, the drawdown was gonna show the erosion. I mean, it's significant. So, but again, that's a whole nother
I
thing
think
independent of this. I wasn't
I
putting
think-
sand in there to make up for what happened on the,
I think the erosion has to be remedied if you so desire by the homeowner,
Right.
okay? I think the removal of the sand is our immediate concern.
Yes, sir.
And I think this commission would like to have it removed as quickly as possible, and some kind of seeding or vegetation put on the surface where the sand was to sort of help the process of
Generation.
invigorating the growth of something there to stabilize it. But the sand has got to come out. That's our concern right now.
Around with it. So just put it back up in the back of the lot?
You can, anywhere but in the
I got the
anywhere
sand-
but in the
I
water,
got the sand from up the street.
anywhere but
Like
in,
I went down to,
anywhere but in the water and where it is. So you're
Maybe
you're
back
caught.
where it came from.
Needs to be upland. So right now, it's
A what?
in,
What?
right now it needs to go anywhere that isn't within 100 feet of the lake. So,
that's easy. We don't have
yeah.
anything.
anywhere that isn't within 100 feet of the lake or in another wetland elsewhere in town means that the problem before this commission
Okay,
is dealt with.
so basically the remedy is I remove the pile of sand that's on, the far lot.
Yes.
Right.
And
And
read
put
it.
some kind of seeding or something to, some topsoil to help, some kind of
I did
vegetation.
find that, I didn't find a silt mat, but I did find.
Are you looking for an application from him? Because typically, you don't want to leave it up in the air. You'd
Do
want,
we need an application for him to satisfy the violation?
not for the removal of the
Yeah,
sand,
well,
but,
that's-
but you're talking about putting topsoil in and,
Oh,
I'll put one of those mats down.
Seeding would not require an application. Topsoil would, because topsoil's fill.
so if he were to seed and put gray on top of it, would that require an application? Because then we're delaying the process because he can't do that for a month.
no, you can get the sand out of there.
Yeah,
like
that he
you-
can.
Yeah.
But with the rain and stuff we're having, if he gets the sand out of there,
You can put an erosion blanket on it.
Or some
Yeah.
fence around it.
a silk fence. that's
Silk
what I was
fence?
saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so,
Well, they
then
have those mats.
Oh,
They
you
have
do?
seed in them, like I did seed
The
in them.
seed mats are things you can roll out.
That's an
yes.
erosion blanket.
okay.
But also-
That would,
All right, so my
I know
understanding,
the geese would probably eat it.
my understanding in order to satisfy the commission is that, how much time do you need to remove the sand?
Well, it's a lot of sand.
What's that?
I said there was a lot of sand, so it'll take me a little while to get to it.
Give me-
I haven't touched anything. You know, as soon as my mom got the phone call.
Right.
I haven't touched a thing. So it looks exactly like that.
This was a month ago.
No, I understand, but I'm
Looks
looking for
exactly
a
like that.
solution, not where we are.
I mean, I'm trying to get out within a week or so.
All right, why don't we give you until next Wednesday to get it completely out of there? That gives you a week? And in the interim,
Wait, hold on. I'm out of town. My mom can't do it. She is.
no, I don't expect.
Well, what about two
I'm gonna make
weeks?
her.
We're not
I'm
that
gonna make her
close.
forgive me for-
We're not that
What
close.
about 2 weeks is certainly I mean, it's been a reasonable time frame,
I mean,
right?
I'm shooting for 2 weeks, but I mean, I would hate to say, cause I actually have to go, I'll be out of town until I leave tomorrow, and I'll be gone a week.
Well, you're gonna hire somebody to do this, aren't you? You're not
Yeah.
gonna shovel this
I
in
mean,
wheelbarrow
it's
yourself.
gotta get
100
done.
feet up
It's-
the
I
hill.
do own a Mexican restaurant, is that what you're saying?
No, you gotta get somebody to come in with some
Somebody
kind of
with
a
a
bobcat.
You know what, I'll ask, he does all the work for my mom.
More?
Jordan.
Jordan's got it back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jordan's got
Jordan's got
something.
it back.
He'll jump right on.
And while Jordan's doing the work, we'd like a silk fence up, so that in case anything gets loose, there's nothing going into the water, and, you know,
Basically, you're saying that no one has ever put any sand in this lake?
no, we're not saying that.
No,
We're saying,
just
So you have a vial there in front of us.
We're saying no one,
Permission, they can put what kind of sand?
can't,
no,
period.
without permission, you're doing something that violates the ordinance.
I understand that, but, you know, in the future, if I wanna make a sand beach out of it,
You
No,
can't.
You can't.
Anything you wanna do, you need an application. Anything in the lake or within 100 feet of the lake, you need an application for this commission.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no,
So-
I
so-
don't think we allow
Land's
sand.
all over the lake.
So the scope of the project, you can discuss it with staff, you know, but the commission won't design your project for you, but just be advised that anything that you do plan to do, you wanna come in with an application prior.
Hi, Mr. Daigle.
No, I don't think you need
Let me
go
try
to
to,
that.
let me try to summarize where we are. You have a week to,
Get it out of there.
You have a
Call
week-
Jordan and get it out
let me
of there.
finish. You have a week to get it out of there. We'd like a silk fence up by tomorrow, and anything beyond next Wednesday, we will begin to pose a $100 a day fine for it not being removed.
Did you give me 2 weeks?
No, I'm waiting, I don't have a problem, I wanna call
No
Jordan.
motion has been made yet.
No motion has been made. I'm just trying to, are we giving him a week or 2 weeks?
I'd be willing to give him two, I think, you know, he's been away, give him 2 weeks.
I think Jordan's available. It's not a 2-day job.
I wouldn't think so.
No, it's, you
I
know,
hope not.
I'd like to stay with the week. I think that's more than reasonable. And after a week from tomorrow, Thursday, we would begin imposing a fine of $100 a day for it not being remedied.
So how do I, in the future?
In addition,
Talk.
I don't think we've been clear that the regulations say you cannot put sand in the lake or any other dirt in the lake.
Right.
And you can apply for a permit to do it, but you won't get it.
Because it's against the rules.
I guess, who do I go to with regards to you?
Pam or Michael?
Pam?
Second floor office, so we're on
Right
this
there
one.
and to the right.
I'm planning on putting sand in the,
Okay. Are we clear?
yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm gonna call Jordan right now,
thank you.
and hopefully it's a done deal.
Okay, thank you for coming in. We
She's
hope
not
your
gonna-
mother is
my
well.
mom- She's not gonna be any kind of, posting or anything?
No? No.
That's not gonna go into.
We accept it as an innocent act. Let's remedy it that way and move forward.
Thank you.
Okay?
Have a good night, guys.
All right, have a good night. Thank you.
Are we making a motion?
Do we need a motion to that effect?
Because you would like to impose a fine, it would be best
Okay.
to have a motion standing. Mr. Molinelli, your most recent motion was to raise the silt fence, remove the sand, institute erosion controls over the course of 1 week, after which a fine of $100 per day will be imposed for not being in compliance.
There a second?
I'll second that.
Mary? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. The next applicant, next violator is John and Christine Sliney.
But did these people get a letter saying 7 PM?
Yes, it appears as if all the letters went out with 7 as opposed to
Okay,
6 on them.
All right, so then, this violation is in the same status? Okay?
I can pass out materials.
Okay. Pam may went out to look.
I think it's worth looking if we can look at some stuff, because
Yeah.
that'll help us. when
Anybody
we
out there?
actually-
They're all out here, so
all
they're
right.
probably waiting and
Okay,
All
good.
right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. Liney, good evening.
Hello.
there is a photograph of what, isn't there?
So we have, this is our site plan here, and the photograph of Mr. Slaney's property. Actually, I don't know that we got that one off the printer. Can you?
Do you wanna just update them?
Certainly. So, Mr. Slaney,
Just before you begin, Michael, this is a cease and desist order issued to John and Christine Sliney. The location is 308 East Wakefield Boulevard, map 032, block 105G, lot 315-316. The violation is the installation of a patio and walkway and clearing of trees. For the record, Mr. Sliney?
Yes.
Are you Mr. Sliney?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you.
So Mr. Sliney's most recent application that came before and was approved by the commission was for the repair of his lake wall during the last deep drawdown. I have provided for everyone here a copy of the survey of Mr. Sliney's property. We printed out pictures but failed to copy them, so Pam is doing that right now, so you'll have site pictures in a moment. Mr. Sliney's property beneath the house, so the high area of East Wakefield Boulevard is on the left here, sloping down to the lake on the right. On the western side of his property, above the house on the plan here, Mr. Sliney has removed several trees and installed a pathway of impervious stone, as well as at the lake's edge installed a patio of impervious stone, which is beyond the scope of the permit, which was exclusively for the lake wall repair. That is the extent of the violation, activity beyond the previously approved activities.
Mr. Sliney, is there anything that was stated that was incorrect?
No.
No?
No, sir.
So you're acknowledging, I sense, that what the agent has indicated as violations and doing work beyond the scope of the permit, you acknowledge doing?
Yes, sir.
And those are impervious patios and,
Yes, though technically the impervious percent cover of the property is under the purview of zoning, considering imperviousness for the health of the lake is
15% or?
15%.
It's below 15%.
Yeah, so that, whether or not it's above that is is the zoning board's, I believe zoning board of appeals, specific provenance, but any increase in impervious cover can be considered by the board as an issue. But yes, these pavers are impervious.
So is there a map from Berkshire stating what the pervious and impervious coverage is?
No.
You
No,
do that?
I don't believe, I've been working speaking with Pam earlier this year.
This is in the same.
I've been working back in Berkshire, trying to get a survey done.
Yeah.
It is, I would imagine you all know.
Yeah, we've been hearing that.
Pulling teeth.
In the wake of COVID, yes.
So,
Because I was asked to get it resurveyed.
okay. That's what I would think we would normally ask for, is the percentage of, get a survey and get it mapped
This
out.
is looking at it from the property out.
Just for the record, the commission was provided with a copy of the survey that was part of his 2018 approval, picture of conditions back in September 2019, and then a picture of current conditions. So one photo of prior, 2 photos of current.
Was this in front of the
One-
Willow White building? The white, is that your building?
No.
Oh, okay, this is,
No, that's not.
Yeah, I remember when you put this wall in, it came out really nice. It did, it really made a difference.
Well, the original being an old stone.
Yeah, no.
It was, as far as I can tell, I believe that the cottage itself was built in 31. So the stone wall was,
No, the wall came out beautiful.
yeah, I know my wife was happy.
Is there any reason why you didn't come back before the commission to talk to us about
You know,
additional proposals?
we talked about it, was dead in the middle of last year. And what had happened was, I had a very large cedar tree that had died between myself and the house, if looking from the lake, the house to my left. And the gentleman that lives there is 96, and he putters all the time. And the tree had died, very difficult to get to. And when they brought in everything, everything got chewed up. But my wife had already talked to these stone guys and said, well, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do this. The tree came down, everything was removed, and like full speed ahead.
Did you not know that it was required to have a permit?
I kind of didn't, was wondering more or less, like, you know, when I was here last time, they were talking about impervious and so on and so forth. You know, I can't sit here and tell you lies. Yeah, basically I did. We were hoping that as it came out, one would match the other. Impervious as opposed to letting it through. Not that it really makes any difference if you call that impervious. I've been out there when we had these good storms going, and not a bit of runoff, but that's neither here nor there, I can imagine.
So determining that would require a survey, and determining water flow would be an engineer's report. I can't make that determination by eyeballing it in the field. It's important to note that the site is stable, so from a standpoint of a violation standpoint, it's not as if rapid action is required to stabilize the site with silt fences or erosion control blankets. The site is certainly stable. The removal of the cedar tree is permitted as an as-of-right activity. Taking down a tree in a wetland is, unless you are clear cutting an area, is not regulated. The issue is the going beyond the extent of the permit.
Anybody?
Well, I would think, get an engineer, get a survey that tells us,
Yeah,
lays out exactly what the pervious and impervious is. That's what we would have required for the permit.
Absolutely no qualms
And a
about making
survey.
it correct.
And the survey, well, it looks like he's got.
There's no qualms about making it correct, once Berkshire
Well,
and or something.
you don't want to hear this, but making it correct would be removing everything. Because you didn't have permission to do any of it, right or wrong. So that's not where you want to be.
Okay.
I think Jeff is indicating that he wants to be sure that the violation was done correctly in terms of if had an engineer engineered it out for you and we gave approval. I think that's what Jeff is indicating.
Well, yeah, and we have to determine if we're over the allotted percentage.
Space and all of
Yeah.
that.
Does he need
You
an
may
application?
need
We need
to do
an
a rain
applica-
garden, or an engineer may require, some other
Yeah.
layout.
So an application essentially, which is what Andrea is saying.
Yeah, we need an
Yeah, I think that's
application,
We need to go through the process, at least initially, as if
as
you were
if
applying
you
for a
were
permit.
going.
Pam, would
And
it
if
be,
anything needed to be remedied, then it would be at your expense.
would it be appropriate to ask for an after-the-fact application?
It's within
Would,
your,
it would be appropriate.
yes. Our application fee or
Well, maybe both, but certainly an application
Yes.
to indicate the scope of what was done. And we would then look at it as a new application and suggest that an engineer look at what was done, even though it's done already. But we would treat it objectively to see if it was up to standards. And then we'd have to talk about the violation aspect of it, which certainly would be, I think the least would be an after-the-fact fee, and then possibly something else, but I don't want to go into that area at this point. All right? So then, we'd like you to come forward to meet with Pam, put in an application for what you've done already, file with the fee. Do we want an after-the-fact fee? Yes, no?
Application fee?
Yeah.
The after-the-fact application fee is a right for the commission to request for things that have happened without an application, $655.
Okay, so I think that's fair.
Yeah, everyone else
Hey,
has to pay
you know,
it.
it's,
like a fine
it is
for-
what it is.
Yeah.
not
The
coming
work
in
is
front of the board.
completed without an application. So that you'll meet with Pam. She'll tell you what you need to submit into the application. If you need to talk to Michael, speak to him. And we're gonna ask for an engineer's report. So that will have to happen also.
Did Berkshire give you any timing when they can get there, or they're just not responding to you, or?
I mean, I've spoken to them 3 times in vain. And I definitely understand what, he said, he's got friends that live in the same business, and they're not even taking work until it starts in January.
I don't think there's any urgency to resolve this because it's done. And, I think, you have to do what we need you to do.
But we are gonna ask them for engineer's
Yeah,
report, so you
and-
might
yeah,
as
he
well.
Well,
knows that.
And
The
get it done.
the
and-
application should be submitted, we should give a time frame for the submission of the application, I think.
I would say within 3 months.
The application, I'd like it for next month.
Okay.
And
Okay.
whatever has to be added to it is added to
Yeah.
it, just like a regular application, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All righty? Go ahead, Jeff.
Lighten up on that fine, that's a stiff fine.
It's not a fine. It's just,
After the fact.
I mean, that's why we have it.
It's the application fee, Jeff, everyone has to pay.
We've been doing this in the past?
Yeah, but there's an after-the-fact application.
Okay,
Normal
again, I'm new-
application
I'm
fee
new to
is-
this, so.
The normal application fee is $95.
No.
No, $215, sorry. And the whole fee schedule is laid out in the ordinance.
So,
But,
Mike,
yeah,
this is my 7th meeting, so I
This is
don't
my
have-
first meeting.
Okay, so, but you've got a background in this. So I don't know what what the background, or what the history of these fines are.
I think the history is that there hasn't been a lot of fines, and that we need to try to keep moving in my mind, keep moving in that direction to try to get people in line with the regulations, unfortunately.
I would agree after maybe a meeting or two.
Right, no, I understand, everybody, we're commissioned here, a volunteer, everybody's got a say, so.
And that's a pretty good chunk of money, that's,
No, it is.
Do we have consensus? Do we want a regular application fee or an after-the-fact?
I think, my consensus, I would vote for an after the fact.
Yeah, me too.
It just is what it is.
After-the-fact? All right, there'll be an after-the-fact fee, okay? And you'll meet with Pam and she'll tell you what that fee is and everything else. All right, thank you very much for coming, we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, the next item on our agenda is item E. The owner is Michael Canoli and Nancy Canoli.
Mr. Hawley. Item D is Mr. Hawley, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jared Hawley.
Brianna Tornio.
Pardon?
Tornio, Brianna Tornio.
You're the co-owner?
No, it's my husband. 713 East Wakefield. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm on the list.
You're 713 East Wakefield?
Yes, sir.
We have the owner listed as Jared Hawley?
Yes, that's my
Okay.
Oh, all
Oh,
right.
okay.
Oh, I thought I was on there too.
Oh, okay, no.
No, I mean, I'm
Okay. And we have a cease and desist order for 713 East Wakefield Boulevard, map 44, block 105R, lot 02728. The violation is clearing of trees. Mike, do you want to talk to us about it?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. So,
See you again.
very much nice to see you as well. So it's been about a month. On the 17th of June, the building official, Mark Melanson, and I were out driving around Wakefield when we had received a call, information from Pam, that there had been some clearing near a town-owned lot, which is adjacent to 713, which is owned by Mr. Hawley and Mr. Neo. Now, these 3 lots are, I believe that you also own 709. It's 709 and 713.
Where's 7-Eleven?
711. There's two lots, and then adjacent to this there is a town lot that was forested. Now, it appears, based upon our GIS records, that some of the clearing that occurred was on the property of the 2 individuals here, as well as there was some clearing on the town's property as well. Now, the exact extent of the clearing on both sides of the property line is not well established due to the lack of surveys that are available to us, but our GIS records do indicate that the clearing goes well into town property.
And the violation is they're clearing their property or town-owned property?
The violation is I believe the violation that we have today is the clearing of town-owned property. as well as clear cutting of property. Clear cutting is not permitted in a wetland area. So clear cutting for for those who don't know it, because clear cutting is a very strange term, is the removal of all trees that are 2 inches and or greater in diameter at breast height. So as you stand out there in the field, placing your hands here, going to find the tree at that height, and then measuring around it with a tape measure. If it is greater than 2 inches, if every tree of that type on a site is removed, that's clear cutting. Clear cutting of wetland is not permitted, and clear cutting of town property is not permitted.
How much of the clear cutting was on wetlands, percentage-wise?
It is hard to know without a survey.
Okay.
Ultimately, much of this comes down to, without the most recent up-to-date survey of where our property ends as a town and where your property begins, it's hard to know exactly the extent of inappropriate clearing.
Hi, so, yeah, it was.
Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Brianna Tornio, I'm Jared Hawley's wife.
Okay.
The gentleman that did the clearing for the property management was Donovan. I'm sure everybody knows Donovan Brown. Okay, he cleared 5 dead trees. I mean, when I say dead, they were like rotting out, and I have kids that play in the yard. And then saplings that were overgrown by vines and poison ivy. I have his paper if you guys want to read it, the disclosure of what work he did. Like the gentleman had said, there is no survey on file for my house, which we bought 2 years ago when I came to see if they had one. There hasn't been a survey on the house since 1926, but yet there was a fenced-in yard. It was fenced in at one point. There was a garage added to it. There was an addition add-on, but there's no survey that the town can find whatsoever on either my house or the adjacent lot that we own as well. So we have our deed with us that has like our lots and all like the measurements and stuff like that, which we are going to do a survey, especially now that this is the problem. There was also not a survey on the town's lot as well, so the only survey that is around is the house next to me, and it's dated like 20 years ago. So a lot of it's, sorry, survey.
So just 5 trees, is that all of them?
Just 5 dead trees and some
And
saplings,
some
yes.
saplings?
So the removal of the trees is, the great issue is, where did the clearing start and where did it end, and is it over the property line and clearing town property? As to where in the wetlands area, this is the weird thing about clear cutting. So clear cutting, if you have 4 trees on a property and they're all over 2 inches of breast height, and you take them all down, technically that's clear cutting. This has been noted several times in various superior courts, and technically that is as much clear cutting as if you were to go in with a chainsaw and destroy something as dense as the Amazon.
Why didn't you catch us last year when we did it? Like, I mean,
How
I
many-
don't understand the problem.
How many other trees are on the property?
How many other trees are on the property? So many. So the real issue is clearing over the property line and whether or not that occurred.
Except they don't know where the property line is.
Correct.
What'd you do with the stumps?
They're still there.
Which is good because it means there's no
Doesn't
risk of
cause
soil
erosion.
destabilization.
Yeah, it doesn't
Well,
cause
yeah,
erosion.
That's a positive.
My understanding is that you're attempting, or will have a survey done of your land?
Yes, sir, eventually, yes, sir. Not like eventually, within like the next few months. He just came back from Pennsylvania and he's back to work in Boston. He travels to work. I'm currently not at work because we have children
Sure.
and school and all that fun stuff. So we're kind of like in a,
Yeah, I guess.
you know, we're getting our feet back on the ground from the year and a half of whatever.
Absolutely understood.
Doesn't the town have to have a survey of its land?
No, technically. The town has to have I believe the town has to maintain I don't believe it's a catalog of the land.
Inventory,
An
they
inventory
know
of
what
the
they
land.
own.
But
Can't the town establish its boundaries so we know?
that would be ideal, yes. But since 1927, many of these lots are unsurveyed since the initial establishment of the various properties.
So we
we
don't
need
even
a
know if our
survey.
house is on our lot that we own.
All right, my sense is that you're going to provide us with a survey.
Yes, sir, based on everything we have in our deed.
And that will delineate your property as what you own, And then, at that point, we will be able to determine whether or not you've exceeded your property line and have done some tree work in town-owned property,
Yes, sir.
okay? And at that point, you're not going to do any other tree work, nothing is
No,
happening?
no, it was just, there was like a lot, yes,
Yeah,
no.
and the answer is
no
yes,
more- yes,
no,
sir,
you
no more
finished.
tree work, yes,
Okay.
not a single drop of tree.
Okay, so then, my understanding of what we're saying to you is, by October 1st, will you have a survey completed?
You have a survey done?
I hope so.
By October 1st, you will have a survey completed?
I'll at least get some estimates. If they're
Of
too-
prices or of a survey?
I would like to have the survey done by October.
You
I would like
have
to.
3 months.
Yes.
Yeah, that-
I think that's a very reasonable amount
Should be
of
able to
time.
do
that.
The
No problem.
damage is done.
Yes, sir.
And it's not gonna continue,
Correct.
and it's not affecting anything?
No, the whole problem is that all these trees, some of which are probably on town property, maybe, we're gonna find out with the survey, came down. And with the stumps there, there's no further erosion, so as soon as the survey can be done, we can determine exactly what it was.
Go ahead.
Okay, the trees were like dead, like,
Yes.
like they were gonna fall down. I mean, we had a tree that uprooted, it was a healthy oak tree, and it fell down our house and damaged our roof and our siding last storm. So it's like, yeah,
Well,
so
let's-
the tree, one of the trees that we took down was an ash, and it was taken over by the Asian ash borer, and it was gonna go right on where the kids sleep upstairs.
Right.
So,
Well, let's start with the survey, right? I think that's the best thing to do. We'll start with the survey and take it
And an
from there.
application,
An
right? You're
application.
gonna want
An
an
application?
for a survey, we need an application for a survey.
No.
No.
An
Oh,
app,
for
for
the
the work that,
non-registered activity that we have on our property.
okay, so you'll meet with Pam.
I don't quite understand how to cut down trees on your own property.
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing we're saying is, we don't know for sure that they cut down trees on town property because we don't know where the property line is.
Some way.
We
yes,
have,
general idea.
we have a general idea of where the property line is based on our existing records and our GIS records. The thing is, that is not, it's fuzzy, right? The original reports that are going to say, where does the town's property start and end, and where does your property start and end, are going to give vague descriptions on markers that may or may not be found at this point. Based on what we know of what the town owns, it looks like some activity was done on town land.
But they don't know. Can I interrupt? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but you said that, you know, we asked a question, do you have anything that can indicate on the town's property where your town property line meets and doesn't, yes or no?
I don't believe so, but I can look.
And no, they don't have anything on their town property,
But the burden,
no marking.
but the burden of proving that you stayed within your boundaries,
Right, but why is the town, why?
because we're saying that is the belief that you violated your boundaries. You don't know where your boundaries are.
Right, and
So we're asking you to just to provide us with your
Yes, sir, yep.
boundaries, and that part of the conversation might go away
Definitely.
if everything you did is within your property
Yes, sir,
line.
fantastic.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
And if it all was, if indeed the trees that were cut down were on their own property, then there's no issue, right?
Correct. There is absolutely no issue. If the trees that were cut down are on your property, and particularly when you have the survey back, and we can tell exactly how much of your property is forested, we can say that there clearly isn't clear cutting. We can say, if that is the case, if there is nothing on our property, then this was a
As of
nervous mess up of trying to say, did something happen? We need to survey our land.
Yeah.
Here's the other question, just the other question. If there hasn't been a survey done since 1926, how do you not know that every lot has been pushed down hundreds of feet?
We
That
don't.
now we only own this much, but technically we should have owned so much because they
When-
moved their house over 100 feet over, and then this house moved
When-
100 feet over, and
When you bought your property,
Yes.
somewhere along the line, there should have been a title,
It's in here.
there should have been a title search
yes.
done,
Oh, yeah, it's on.
which says what you own and what you don't own.
So if there's somebody on our like say our neighbor is like 25 feet.
Correct.
There,
That would,
okay.
the title search would distinguish that. So if you have a title search which would answer the questions of a survey, then it may or may not be necessary.
Don't you think that's gonna cause like a complete like waterfall effect where everybody's gonna realize on Highland Lake that their property lines are
My
off by.
suggestion is, without belaboring the point, is just worry about your property.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Solve your solution, and we'll go from there,
I
okay?
will, except when I'm supposed to have like more than I'm being quoted, or I'm having more than I'm being
Well, a
quoted.
lot of surveys, it isn't sort of, just to answer your question, tons of properties have had surveys. So it is really clear. You know, some have had surveys every 5 or 6 years with new ownership. People want to know exactly where their lines are. So that's why it really wouldn't be a watershed problem, because, or not watershed, but like tons of people coming up, because there's been tons of surveys.
And the other
You just
thing-
happen to have one that hasn't had one.
Right, the other thing is they did an add-on, they did 2 add-ons, so that's gonna make us closer to the road and closer to the
Right.
adjacent property, but that was never picked up, that was something that was done 30 years ago that apparently fell under the markering or the whatever.
Yeah,
Present
radar
gadget,
survey.
Yeah,
Right.
no one
Alright.
caught it, so now I have a bigger house than what it was back in 1926, and there's nothing on file that says that that house got bigger.
Are you clear with where we are and what you need to do? All right, thank you very much
I
for
just
coming
wanna say
forward.
one thing.
Please, go ahead.
Absolutely.
The only trees, if any, were on town property, were dead.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't refute. We don't know.
We're not challenging that.
Yeah.
My biggest problem is the children.
Absolutely.
Those trees were to fall on the kids.
Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
the town take responsibility.
If the trees were on the town's property and they came down and fell upon someone causing damage to life or property, then, and it was a result of something on the town property, then that could be the town's responsibility. The survey will establish that, and in the case that there are trees on the town's property that do endanger someone else's property, coming in to speak to Public Works and requesting that these come down for the sake of health, or requesting before, I don't remember the precise commission, the ability to remove those trees in the town's stead for safety could be possible.
So, but we'd still have to pay for a survey first.
Right.
The survey is important here.
Yeah, that's fine, we'll have this survey
Okay.
done.
All right,
We'll
all right,
get-
thank you
you have
very
any
much.
questions?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
We're still
Pam,
supposed to see Pam?
please.
That would be
Oh,
helpful.
Pam,
Okay, thank you.
During regular hours.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thanks.
All right,
Thank you.
the last item is item E. The owner is Michael Canole and Nancy Canole. Are they here? Are any of the Canoles here?
No.
Canole?
Yeah.
Italian. Forget, take the Canoles, leave the gun.
Did the Canoles receive the?
I don't know, Pam?
I spoke to Nancy Canole yesterday. She came into the office to discuss this. They are aware of that the existence of the docks is in violation, that they don't have a permit. They have taken a inland wetlands application to get their dock approval, which will come before the commission. The offending docks are in the process of being removed.
Being,
I believe the offending docks right now are in the process of being removed.
okay.
There's more than one?
I have some pictures. So, what you can see on the waterfront here is, you'll see several structures. And if anyone requests additional pictures, I'm more than happy to demonstrate those. So, on the right of this image, you will see a dock that appears to be made out of wood. That is the dock that we have records of existing since at least 2014 and 2019. It has been on our GIS. It is a pre-existing dock. We have aerial photography demonstrating that. So that exists. If you go over to the left, however, you will notice that boat lift and the what appears to be the metal and black, potentially plastic dock. That dock showed up recently, and presumably someone put it in the water, but we have no permit for it. There is also around this dock, which can't be seen from this particular picture, but is just below the embankment before it gets to the dock, there is several other pieces of lumber and various small structures that are poking into the water, which are also being removed.
I have a question for you, Mike. This is all one property, this is all Canole's property from the left side of the boat to the right side of that far dock?
Yes, this particular picture, everything shown there is one property, or
Shown
yeah.
as one property.
Yes,
on the
shown as one
GIS.
property. There are adjacent, abutting properties also owned. There's an additional
There's
adjacent
been some
property.
conveyances, which is all the more reason that when they come in with a dock application, you're gonna want a survey. There's been some land transfers that aren't reflected on GIS that may or may not have needed subdivision approval from planning and zoning.
Okay, well, we'll wait and see.
All right, so my understanding is the applicant or the Knolls are in the process of filling out an application,
Yes.
and they've removed, or they will be removing the existing illegal structure.
Yes, and I will be checking each week to make sure that check on progress.
Is there anything else the commission would want?
Was the boat lift permitted?
I don't believe so, no.
But they're removing that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, I believe that concludes the special meeting agenda for tonight.
Just adjourn this meeting, so.
Yeah, and I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the special meeting at 7:14 PM on July 21st.
Motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
All those in favor of joining? Okay, just get your paperwork together, and we'll move right into our regular business meeting for tonight.
Can I get a 2-minute recess?
2-minute recess before we.
You want to take a 2-minute recess?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. We did this before. What's that?
Everybody can under 2-minute recess. I better get up too, why not?
Stretch your legs. Yep. I feel that. I am the new wetlands man. Michael. Nice to meet you.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm doing all right. It's busy. I prefer jobs that are busy to jobs that I don't have a lot to do.
Yeah.
So, very much to do. We're trying to keep everybody as happy as possible when they're all being pulled in different directions. Pam, I believe, did go back there, potentially make more copies. All right, only 20 minutes behind schedule. Hey, Pam,
Yeah.
Some people are here, like, I happen to know the Knolls, and they're here, outside waiting, so I'm not sure.
We close the meeting now.
Yeah, it's done. Mike, tell them what happened, what transpired.
That they, okay.
out better that way. It worked out better that way, 'cause there's, you know, they got gardens on, I just wanna show you something.
Oh, yeah, I have a feeling we're gonna need to.
No,
The letter said.
Surplus hearings for the benefit of the commission, like,
Right.
that we already, you know, the outcome of the surplus hearing, is you want an application and you want the activity to stop. You communicated what they had expressed to you yesterday, and the commission isn't imposing a fine or anything else, they're okay with your report. The show cause,
I didn't say anything to him, you know.
you don't wanna discuss it.
I probably should, just because
They have a mess with their title here. They don't even know who owns, you know, and so you need a survey. She thinks that it's my grandpa's, they need a survey, it's better this way.
I'm not sure the rest of them moving ahead, because they're all waiting out there.
I can wait.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting back to order.
Just, you told them, right? Hold on one second, Steve, you told them, right? You told them that, yeah, it's already been discussed. Just give it a minute, Steve.
You can step on anything.
I wasn't paying, there was no fine to the fellows, right?
Okay.
That, they're just coming in and filling out the
Well, I don't know if we can get to this.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Mike,
Hold on, Mike, wait for Michael, please. Right, so like, they just gotta
No, I
come
didn't
out with
even
an
go through it.
application. They gotta come out with an application. You know, it's not a big, no, they're out there, but it's already been discussed, you can't like take it up twice. That meeting, of course, so. So let him handle that. I'll leave it there. That's all right. She's a couple hours well. She Yeah, yeah.
He's just working through some issues. He's just working through, I think, explaining it, like the meeting's closed.
Today I'm like this, I feel like I'm in class.
Get any more stuff in there.
no, Pam just indicated that when she called me out, that they sent an email requesting a continuance, so we didn't even know.
Like I said, don't even be coming. It's just, if I were.
Suggesting
Be a leader.
to come. I sent them back to
Yeah.
And by the way, don't take no for an answer.
Calling in? Yeah.
Oh, did she start her job? Oh, that's excellent. She's a good girl. I'm gonna give you the home. She likes it. She started Monday? For family property.
You know what, I'd like to begin the meeting. To call the Inland Wetlands regular meeting of July 21st to order. It's 7:23. I'd like to take a roll call, please. Stephen Molinelli, present. Russell Davenport, vice chair.
Present.
Jackie Mulvey, secretary. Andrea Kowicki.
Present.
Jeff Lippincott.
Present.
Mary Ann Marino.
Present.
Kurt Timoney.
President,
And for the records, we still have 2 vacancies on on our commission. I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of June 16th, 2021.
Is there any discussion needed on those, or does anybody, before I make a motion, does anybody have any comments or changes to the,
I just have one, I might be a correction, it may not. Pam, on page 8 of the minutes, the motion for application 21-24, the motion was made by Ms. Mulvey, Mr. Davenport seconded it, to approve, to accept. Do we need the word approve, to accept?
Maybe to approve and accept, or
Well, it's not.
to
No,
accept and approve.
I think the application, knowing the application is on our agenda for
To
this
accept,
month.
I'm sorry.
So it's only to accept.
I guess, and
Okay,
that should
so
reflect it.
the minutes will be amended, that on page 8, that I noted, the word approve will be eliminated. Any other corrections for the minutes?
There were two motions.
The second one is correct, I thought.
The second one is correct. 21-24 is correct as written.
Well, that's the one that has to be adjusted.
Well, they both say it, because there were two.
Okay, where's the second one?
21-23 and 21-24.
Okay, so just eliminate the word?
So you only voted to accept 21-23 and 21-24 at the June 16th meeting?
Okay.
Correct.
Yep, the minutes.
Okay,
of
thank
that.
you.
Not approved.
so I'd like a motion to approve the minutes per Steve's request of the change. And do I have a second?
Second.
Jackie, all those in favor of accepting? It's unanimous.
Okay.
For the purpose of the audience, we have a wetlands agent, which I'd like to introduce you to, but he's outside talking to somebody, and let's just leave it at that. And when he comes back in, I'll stop the meeting and introduce him. The first item on the agenda was a public hearing, IWWC 21-09.
Steve, just before you do that, under agenda review, item 4.
Yes.
Would the commission indulge the town's project manager and move them up as item A under, right after the public hearings?
I would. Is there a need for a second? Okay, thank you. All right, going back to the public hearing, IWWC 21-09, the applicant is Michael Gonzalez and Desiree Gonzalez at 524 East Wakefield Boulevard, installation of a dock and boat lift. We've received notice tonight at 6:45 that the applicant has requested a continuance. So there'll be no public hearing, there'll be no discussion on this public hearing, and we're gonna close the public hearing with that statement. Do I need a motion to close the public
No,
hearing?
you're not closing it.
We're gonna continue the public hearing. Do we need a motion to that effect?
Nope, well, yeah, take a motion to continue it.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing for application IWWC 21-09 at the applicant's request to continue the public hearing to the next meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary Ann, Andrea, all those in favor of the continuance? It's unanimous. Thank you. Under old business, application IWWC 21-07, the applicant is Ideal Woodworking. Is there anybody here from
Oh,
that?
excuse me, can we take the new business, number 7?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, my mistake. Thank you. We're gonna jump to new business,
Item A.
Town of Winchester, application IWWC 21-32. It's a modification of 18-23, and it's the Town of Winchester. The location is Pratt and Lewis Street, and it's to repair and collapse existing culvert under Pratt Street. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, my name is Bart Clark, I'm with the Department of Public Works.
Thank you. And you want to talk to us about the modification?
The original Pratt Street culvert, as you know, it included a pedestrian bridge that went across the stream. And many years ago, that pedestrian bridge was taken away after it was in such poor shape. So the Public Works Department had an application to extend the culvert that's there, the existing culvert, so that we could replace the bridge with a concrete sidewalk. And we had gone out to bid with the project over the winter, and the bids came in too high, so we were looking at doing a second look at the project, and part of that included a new inspection of the culvert, the concrete culvert that went underneath. And you can see by the photos that are in the memo that we submitted that there us that we have to replace that culvert rather than try to do anything to repair or extend it. And that's what we'd like to amend our application to include demolition of the existing culvert and installation of a new metal culvert that goes across the road there.
Will that modification remedy that problem and get those barriers away?
Yes.
And what's the time frame for this? Get money out there for it now?
We're working with the selectmen now to get money out of the fund balance or from whatever other fund that they feel is appropriate. But we had $30,000 appropriated to the project and the redesign after the bids came in so high. So we're using that $30,000 to purchase the culvert that we intend to put in place and some materials, but we'll need additional money over and above that.
So the town's gonna do this themselves?
Yes, the town crew is gonna do this work, so.
Old school.
Yep.
Good.
It's good.
Is there any need for a lot of discussion on this?
Well, I think the plan spelled it out pretty well.
Plan's
That
thorough.
the, you know, the timing and the course of action, you know, put the diversion pipe in and what's the timeframe?
We're hoping.
Listen, don't get nervous, just.
I mean, everybody here wants it done. It was done yesterday.
Make it easy on yourself, make one up, come on.
The timeframe is, the culvert's hopefully arriving this week.
Uh-huh.
So we've got the pipe, but there's other things that we need to put in place in order to get the project started. And one is the additional funds, which we hope to review with the selectmen at their next meeting. And the second thing that we're doing is making arrangements with the gas company to relocate their gas line that goes directly over top of the culvert there, under 2 inches of pavement. So there's a 6-inch plastic line.
Lucky that didn't collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and take the pipe with it.
Exactly. So, if all goes well, toward the middle of August, we should be started.
Oh, beautiful.
But and again, one of the balls we're juggling is the weather,
Yeah.
If it decides to stop raining, it'll certainly make our job easier.
So that all has to dry out the way that the plan said it. You give it a couple days to dry out and then.
Yeah. We gotta stop the flow and let the water dry out, the soil underneath it dry out a little bit, for it to make it efficient.
You have to
Make the
divert
least
the
amount of
flow?
mess. Yes.
Yeah, putting a diversion pipe in like one catch basin up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess like a little pond in there is the way it sounded, a little.
Yeah,
little thing,
we'll
little
place,
silt pond or.
we'll place sandbags across the stream and, just below the new pipe that we install, so we can get the flow of water going around.
How long will the project take from beginning to end?
We anticipate it'll be 4 weeks.
How long?
Yeah.
Will there be any obstruction to traffic and things of that sort?
The traffic will be detoured around for a portion of that time. Just the length of time depends upon what other surprises we find when we actually get the digging in the ground, because there's more than one surprise waiting us yet, so I'm sure. So.
Will it be a continuous project? In other words, you're not gonna start it for 2 days and walk away and come back a week later?
It seems like we do that sometimes, but there's reasons why we stop work. If there's conditions that require that we stop active work to prevent, excess water from getting into the active area of excavation, or, we have to wait for a utility company to come in and do their work.
All right.
So things like that make it look like sometimes we walk away from the project, but, it's just coordinating all the different players as part of the project. But our efforts, once we focus on it, our efforts aren't gonna be sent anyplace else.
Any other concerns? Michael?
Mr. Clark and I have spoken about this extensively. The plan looks very good to me. It's gonna fix a problem with the pipe, and the plan was otherwise good to go.
All right, we can accept and approve tonight, correct? Is there a motion to approve the application so noted?
Who was that? Sorry, I didn't see who that was. Who made that motion?
Nobody. I said, is there?
I'll make the motion. Motion to accept, IWWC 21-32. Applicant is the town of Winchester. Repair collapse of existing culvert under Pratt Street at the corner of Pratt and Lewis Streets.
a second?
Second.
Russell? All those in favor of approving the modification? Unanimous? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those other two items that Jim was talking about, are they on the agenda?
The Beaver Dam?
The Beaver Dam and there was one other you were talking to you guys about. I assume not, since you don't know.
Just let Pam know before you're ready to begin.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Are you prepared to talk about the property for the beavers? Do you know, just, what Bart's alluding to is a communication, that there's a beaver dam problem. And who do you have to remedy that? It's a service out of Massachusetts.
Yeah, up at International Way, up the industrial park, there's a stream that goes underneath the road right there. And just upstream of the culvert on the Route 20 side, they have created more than one beaver dam, and it's causing the water to back up into the drainage system and causing trouble down, upstream of the whole thing. So we've contacted a specialist in beaver diversions, beaver dam diversions. And so there's a structure that he has that will allow us to divert the water around the dam while satisfying the beavers' need to keep the dam in place. So it won't damage the upstream drainage system as much, so.
Does the commission need an application for the work that the beaver interventionalist is gonna undertake?
Can we simply say that you'll contact the agent as to when you're gonna begin?
Absolutely.
And be sure that he's involved with the process, and we'll rely on, as an agent determination? Make it simple?
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay,
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks.
thank you, Bart.
All right, before we begin, for the purposes of the audience, I'd like to introduce our new wetlands agent, Michael Stankoff. I apologize.
That's all right.
He comes to us well-prepared in terms of his education and his background. From our perspective, we're glad to have a, quote, semi-full-time agent on staff. And for anything, just meeting, Michael has made, for me, part of this meeting much easier in that he's prepared, again, not at my request, but on his own volition, staff comments which make reference to each and every application that we're going to talk about tonight, his visitation of the applicant process, and how he felt about it. So we have some literature which in the past we really never had. So I'd like to thank Michael for that and compliment it on it. So with that, I'd like to begin with application under old business IWWC 21-7, Ideal Woodworking, 129 East Wakefield Boulevard. I don't see anybody in the audience. Pam, do they have more time?
Do.
All right, so I'd like to have a motion to continue this application to the next regularly scheduled meeting in August. Russ?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, sorry, don't have the right one. I'd like to make a motion to,
Here.
sorry. To move, or to continue to later in our meeting application, sorry,
To the next meeting,
20.
right?
Yeah, to the
Oh,
regular
so
schedule.
to the next regular scheduled meeting, IWWC 21-07.
For the record, it's August 18, 2021.
Okay, August 18, 2021. Sorry. I didn't
That's okay.
have that.
August 18th?
Yep. A second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, unanimous. The next application makes reference to the public hearing, so that application will be continued to the next scheduled meeting. Do we need a motion to that effect, Pam? I'd like to make that motion, IWWC 21-09. The applicant's address is 524 East Wakefield Boulevard to install a dock and boat lift. At the homeowner's request, he's asked for a continuance, which was granted to the next regularly scheduled meeting on August 18th. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor? unanimous. All right, the next application is IWWC 21-19. The applicant is Daniel Bastian. The address is 614 East Wakefield Boulevard. Changes to walkway and driveway.
Michael's report reported that most of the activity was limited to the upland outside of the review area.
Uh-huh.
And he's unable to make the meeting, and I said to him that it wasn't likely that the commission would have any questions since the work is done. He needed this for handicap access. And isn't it in the report?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So handrails have been installed. The stones are now smoother than they were before. So it used to be a more rough-hewn rock pathway. These are now very smooth. As far as I remember, the applicant, Mr. Bastian, is one-legged, and as a result, for his prosthesis, he requires a smoother surface to move about on his property. And it is very steep, so he needs that staggered walkway. Visiting the site in the middle of June, all the work, as far as I can tell, has been completed. The hill has been restabilized with hydroseed, which has sprouted into grass. And as far as I can tell, there is no ongoing activity. If I did not know that this site had changed, driving by it, I would not know to look.
Nor would a site plan tell the difference. There's been no increase in impervious surface.
Okay.
He merely replaced uneven stones with bluestone. It might even be considered landscaping.
Which is a permitted as-of-right activity.
Okay, I visited the site, I didn't have any concerns about it. I think it's stable, it's neat, there's no evidence of any disturbance, everything was cleaned up.
Not as far as I can see.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to approve application IWWC 21-19 for 614 East Wakefield Boulevard. The applicant is Daniel Bastian, and it's just changes to the walkway and driveway that have already been completed to the board's satisfaction.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Jackie? It's silly to talk about a fee because everything is completed, so there's no need for that.
Well,
And there's no additional
have to pay
conditions.
that extra after-the-fact fee.
I'm glad you brought it up.
That other guy had to pay.
I'm glad you brought it up.
$650.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, he may have paid it, right? He had to pay
No.
the application.
The indication is that the fee was the normal amount of $210.
Yeah. And a lot of this work was done out of the review area, whereas the other one is, completely, adjacent to the water.
So he did other work other than just those stairs.
What's
The
that?
wall. He did other work other than just those stairs. He put the wall.
He
on
has,
the west side.
so there was
He
a,
doesn't approve of that.
He did. Okay, it was before my time, I guess.
so there was a site plan. This house, I think, underwent like major, definitely interior improvements. They did something because we had plans from ZBA in 2015. So that's where there was a little bit of confusion when he first submitted that the 2015 plan and showing like massive amounts of work, and there's no changes to that 2015 plan that was
Okay.
approved.
Okay.
He just used it
Okay.
to,
So-
because he had obtained it from the former owner, and so it was just the walkway. He came in and it's like, okay, and it was like, he was very, so was the other guy too, though, but very compliant, like very, very cooperative, I should say, in getting an application because we weren't sure what he was doing, and I did continue to see trucks. I continued to receive inquiries on it. So I said, you gotta get in. He says, I'll do whatever I gotta do, but then he was confused over what it is you really wanted.
Okay.
Because, you know, what
So
had
that
it,
wall on the left was approved, the steps down, went down
yeah, you went out and field verified
the south
that
side
plan.
of the property.
As far as I can tell, by eyeballing it and not taking survey equipment out to verify,
Okay,
it looks accurate to the plan.
okay.
My sense also is, my recollection also is that at some point Pam stopped by and told him, stop working because you don't have a permit. And this all then came out afterwards
That's
in
already
terms
done.
of everything else.
Okay.
So,
We still have an open draft, right? We have an open motion.
you have an open
Yeah, okay,
motion
so
that
we're
we
just
didn't vote on.
discussing, right,
We're
okay.
still discussing. And Jeff raised the question is, do we need an after-the-fact fee on this application? Is there a sense?
I didn't think that, yeah, I didn't think we did.
Okay.
I mean, that's a short answer
Andrea's
to that.
shaking her head.
Let's put it this way, I mentioned it to him that it might happen, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I wanna interject it before minds get made up. I said that it was possible, and, you know, sorry, you know, that was his take, you know, like, you know. So he realizes that it was a possibility, cause he did the work without a permit, but then, when he came in last week, I also said, no, I think you're probably good, cause he asked if he had to come here.
Okay.
Is the case being consistent from one?
So.
Well,
person to
they're
another.
very different situations though, Jeff. The other applicant came in for a permit to do specific work and then did a whole bunch of work outside of the permit knowingly. This person bought a new house and changed his walkway according to the same plans with a different material, not knowing, cause he's new to town, that he needed to put in a permit. As soon as Pam let him know he had to put in a permit, he came in and put it in. So they're very different situations.
For the
One
commission.
person violated his permit. One person didn't know he needed it and then was compliant.
And did not change the scope of what was on the original
Plan.
plans.
And it was, and if anything was changed, it was above the upland review area anyway, it was more than 100 feet. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the commission's consideration, because the percent impervious surface did not change, because the functional footprint of the property did not change, and it was only a change in materials, as far as we can see, primarily, from the plan that was previously approved, the commission could consider this landscaping. Landscaping is an as-of-right permitted activity. The commission could consider this because it is not changing would not change necessarily the pattern of construction, and it's just a tweak in materials, no different from changing out the flowers in a pre-existing garden or flower bed that was already on pre-existing plants. I'm not saying that the commission should, but the commission could choose to consider this type of work, landscaping, which could be considered an as-of-right activity, and thus would not even require an application, and thus would not warrant the fee, if it be your pleasure.
You're not suggesting we return the fee, are you?
The application has been submitted, the fee is
Let's
associated.
leave it alone. Are you good, Jeff?
Yeah, but
Okay. Any other discussion on this motion? All those in favor of accepting, of
We have
approving?
a
of
second,
approving?
we have a second on
Jackie
that?
did, I think.
Okay, all right,
All those in favor of
Approving,
approving?
right?
yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next applicant is the Winchester Land Trust application 21-21. Replace damaged culvert, footbridge to stop erosion on trail. Representing the organization is Jan Perger and, thank you. Go ahead, Jan.
We met with you last month and, we had a few further questions and asked that we meet with Michael. So, Doug and I met with Michael and, we had a good, chat about what was going on. And then Doug drew a map of where the work was gonna be and where the, gravel or whatever soil we end up with would be, staged until we figure out what we're doing, and then he wrote up a step-by-step, list of how the work would go. So, we're just here to answer any further questions that you have.
Do we have that?
Yes. It's in the packet. The little map at the end.
So there's like 11 steps of, what the contractor would do, and then, and a map.
Construction schedule, so.
Yep.
No, yeah, well, no. It was in the packet now, but we just. Here it is. Yes. Michael, have you had an opportunity to review these steps?
I have not had an opportunity to review the exact steps of construction. No, I did not have a chance to look at that so far. I can speak to the road, however. So the crossroad, the so-called crossroad, is a walking path between Newfield and South Road. I included 2 images with your packet. First image is facing south, and so basically if you're on this gravel path right over where the water should be flowing, no, but I know.
Okay, yeah.
If you're on that gravel path right where the water should be flowing, you can see in this first image that kind of cut path between the foliage. That's where the water's supposed to flow. But in the next image, I took a step back and photographed the trail, and you can see that there is a large amount of mounding over the top of the trail, and underneath that is the crushed pipe. The limited amount of excavation required to pull the pipe out and then put in the footbridge is good. Generally speaking, in the hierarchy of good construction techniques for allowing minimum impact on water, putting in a bridge is even better than putting in a culvert, because putting in a bridge allows more ready access to the water should maintenance need to be done. Although I cannot speak to the construction steps because of my inability to review them so far, I can say that from what I saw here, the general project, as Ms. Berg explained it to me, would be a major improvement to ensuring that water is going to go into that channel that has been cut in the first picture, as opposed to what it's doing right now, where it's kind of flowing outside of it and onto the plane of the property.
I think in the steps, some of the things we addressed, talking to both Michael and Pam, would be, is there gonna be any storage of material, and how much would that be, and would we have the bales of straw, and that, and so we tried to include all that to make sure that we're addressing the
Concerns.
concerns they brought up.
And I think you have, apparently, in my opinion, successfully addressed them. Russ, anything that you see?
No, I know this site, so, I mean, it's certainly a pretty straightforward project and a big improvement of what's there. So, no, I don't
Jeff?
see anything.
I saw the site, it was a lot of big mess at the bottom of the hill. It was, also got a couple tick blowers up there. but-
Sure, more than a couple, yeah.
No, this should be a good improvement for them.
If somebody would like to make a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve application IWWC 21-21, the replacement of a damaged culvert with, yes, that's right. Damaged culvert with footbridge to stop erosion. The trail, this is, Winchester Land Trust for, Newfield Road to South Road. I don't believe we have any conditions or we need a cash and erosion bond for this. It's not really an erosion. I don't feel like, we've got hay bales there, I don't feel like there's really anywhere to erode to.
No, it's not gonna get any worse.
So,
All right, I would just like to read into the record that the attached drainage improvement project be part of the approval process in terms of the sequence, so it's more detailed.
okay,
Okay,
all right.
is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? So there's no bond, and all those in favor? It's unanimous. Just let Pam know when you're ready to begin, and good luck with the project, and thanks for coming forward with it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. the next application is 21-23. The owner is, and 23 and 24, can we entertain together?
If the applicant agrees.
Is the applicant here? Mr. Zabo? You want to come forward, please? Can we talk about this simultaneously, or do you want to do it separately?
Well, there's two lots.
I know,
They're individual pieces, so.
Okay, so let's separate
One
them.
of them.
Let's
is-
separate them.
Okay, one of them is, like, doesn't need any attention, and I think it should be okay.
Then we'll move on that one, and then
The
we'll
other
move on to
one-
the second one.
I'm making a map, so there's still some questions, because the map isn't complete yet.
Okay, which one can we take action on tonight?
7. Lot number 7.
That's number 21-24 or -23? It's 110 or 112?
110.
110, okay, so we'll talk about 110 only for now.
Okay, should I pass these out? These are the
This,
wetland,
does it pertain to 110?
yeah, this pertains to the whole property. In other words, I had the wetlands all reflagged,
Okay,
because wetland flagging is only good for 5 years.
right.
It's been
And
50
we
years.
asked you for that.
So I went and hired another soil scientist, so this is the third time it's been flagged. He made these reports out, so I've got a report for everybody with a map on the back.
Okay.
Showing where the wetland flagging is. You wanna hand these out?
So this, what you're handing out now pertains to both applications, but let's center the conversation on the one at the 110.
Here's that. This is a map just for you. And then if you want to, I don't know, has anyone found the property yet? I made maps for you. If anyone would like them, if you don't know where, if you don't know where the property is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take one, absolutely.
I'm not gonna just hand them out to everybody, because this map is 50 years old. And it's the only map that I know of.
Thank you.
That has Wygold Road on it, even though it's a town road. Oops, sorry about that. Thank you. So this map is so old that it's calling this road Trout Hill Road, and that's Schuman Road. So I have no idea how old, how old this actually is. You want-
So now,
Yes, I am familiar with this.
now the wetlands delineation report that you just provided us talks to this particular parcel, the
Yes.
110.
Yes,
Okay. And it's been flagged,
it's been flagged. Yes.
okay?
So what happened was, at the bottom of the map, on the back side, when we got to the property line, the wetland flagging stopped, because we didn't we didn't test the wetlands on the neighbor's property. So there was a section about 200 feet long that we were not really sure where the wetlands were. We just knew they weren't on my property, but we didn't know how far off the property. So now this guy who came out and did it, he flagged the neighbor's property. And he shows that it's about 50 feet beyond the property line
Your property,
is where the wetlands begin.
on the neighbor's property.
Right.
Both sides.
So, where I'll be doing my work, I'll have more than the 75 feet required, but I don't have a map yet because it's in the process of being made.
Okay.
So lot 7 is the one on the top. That one has about 150 feet to the wetlands from where I'll be working. So there's really no issues, I'm not even close. Michael was out there, we measured everything. Some of the wetland flags are so far away that you can't even see them.
Michael was out there after the wetlands flag
Yes.
were up.
We were out there this
Okay,
morning.
okay.
So we were measuring, and I showed them all, we walked the whole property, I showed them all the new wetland flags. Most of the wetland flags are right where the old wetland flags were. But because July was
The
so
rain.
wet, there's puddles. And of course, the puddles, when he tests them, they show up as wetlands. So if you see this area over here, which is on lot 7, he shows the wetlands coming in closer to where the house is because of the rain, because it's been so wet. But it's still 150 feet from where I'm working. So it's really not an issue, but it did get closer to the house. So, I mean, what I'm looking to do is, because lot 7 is really, like undoubtedly not anywhere near the wetlands, I'd like to get lot 7 approved just so I can get going. And lot 8, I'm gonna have the maps made, they'll be done in about a
Leave
week.
it- Hold that conversation,
Yeah, okay.
that's where we don't
Sure.
crisscross. Michael, is what he's reporting is accurate from what you saw today?
Mr. Zabo and I went out into the field this morning and we walked the site. Mr. Zabo had a line measure with him, and we measured from what we could find as the closest wetland flag to what he's referring to as one of these puddles, which is a temporarily transient wetland area, so not wet all the time, but has the potential to be wet. With where he currently has the house temporarily staked with tiki torches, to that, lumber is very expensive right now. With where he has that to the closest transient wetland, as I saw, was 88 feet. So that is beyond the 75-foot wetland setback. So all of that Mr. Zabo has said is accurate, yes. From the map that you're looking at here, the things that I would note for Lot 7 in particular is that based on my observations, where it currently says proposed 2-bedroom house, that is not precisely where the house, the current staking is. The staking of the house by a surveyor has not yet been completed. The wetlands delineation notes that these flags should be marked on a survey, that a survey should be done following the delineation, that such that the new flags can be marked on the survey, and a survey will need to be done before I believe the corners of the house are pegged out anyways.
Right. So I didn't want, the surveyor said that typically when he stakes the house, it's based on an approved plan. You see, and these plans aren't approved, we might still be moving the house. So, I mean, I don't know how many times he would have to go out and stake the house if we're not happy with where the wetlands show up. So he didn't stake the house, I staked the house out, measuring off wetland flags. And there's other points of, there's giant boulders that are on the map, that are on the property.
Not on lot 7, though.
Not on lot 7.
Right, so let's stay with lot
Okay.
7.
So, like I said, I got 150 feet. You know, there's one spot that we measured, the closest flag was, like I said, a little puddle.
88 feet.
That was 88 feet. But the house hasn't been staked by a surveyor, so it's only been measured off of wetland flags. So, you know, I'm within a couple of feet, let's say, of where they are, maybe within 5 feet of where it is, but it's not, hasn't been staked by a surveyor.
Pam, from protocol, do we need this house surveyed and staked before we can give approval, so we know exactly where it is?
You wouldn't want
I'm not a favor of a contingent, you know, what if, so, you know, my comfort level, unless, I think there's a difference of opinion, is that it be staked based on where you want it, and Mike would revisit the site based on the measurements that the stakes will indicate to the wetlands, and that will give us a basis for approval.
As an agent determination at that point, or?
That's something to consider.
Right, because we're really we're really talking about a couple, with something within 3 or 4 feet, right? I mean,
There is no doubt that the activity that Mr. Zabo is proposing, based on the current survey that he has and the recent wetland reflagging, of which we have the highlighter from his wetlands agent here, if this is all accurate to scale, then the house and all the work that will go into that will not disturb the wetlands, even if the silt fence is set, as Mr. Zabo told me earlier today, about 10 feet within the wetland setback. That's perfectly normal. It's just an allowance to allow a cement mixer to get in and out more easily. Then that's just a silt fence. There's no activity occurring in that back wetland. But This is not a map, and it is not the recently updated survey that the delineation report calls out. This is ultimately the commission's decision.
I think.
But
I
yes,
mean,
you could refer it to him for an agent approval. And that would probably be wiser than approving a contingency
I don't-
plan.
Yeah, I'm not in
Let
favor of that.
him
Yeah,
review
I'm not in
a
favor
firm
of
plan.
contingencies.
It's just a quick, I think it would be something he certainly could determine in a field, and the owner has everything. He wants to make sure it's not within the wetlands. The last thing he wants to do is have a problem with these houses once he has an as-built and go back and look at it and say, oh, this is wrong. I mean,
Before
that's a
I do
major
anything,
problem for him.
The surveyor is gonna have to come out and stake the house. So I'm not gonna touch anything until the house is all staked.
You're looking for,
Right.
you're looking for approval pending the staking of the house within the area that's safest for you to build
He
in.
stakes the house out, and I'm, you know, it's where we think it is, and we can measure, and we're more than 75. I'd like to get going.
I understand.
Just because I've only got 70 days to get a house in, get a septic system in, get a well in, fill the lot, you know, final grade it, topsoil it, and seed and hay it before grass doesn't grow anymore. You know, I've only got until October 1st. I've got my work cut out for me, and to wait another month,
No, we understand.
I understand.
We understand. Are we comfortable with that kind of a solution? Somebody want, we're talking about application 21-23, the address is 110 Wygold Street, Wygold Road, thank you. And is there a motion to approve ultimately with a agent determination for being the final, determining factor?
So would that be
It wouldn't be a motion to approve, it would be a motion to refer for an agent approval.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to refer application IWWC 21-23 for an agent agent determination approval at 110 Wygold Road, construction of a single-family residence. There are no, I don't believe we have a cash.
He'll do that.
Okay, so he'll take care of that.
I've got a cash bond already.
So he's got a cash bond already, so, okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jeff,
Okay.
any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous? Okay?
Okay.
You know where you are with that.
Okay,
Next.
we're gonna do lot 8 now.
Ready? 112 Wygold, application 21-24, construction of a single-family residence.
So, if you look at
You're
the
referring to the same document you handed out.
same map, and now we're on the lower one. This is lot 8. So for one, the proposed house site here shows that it's 55 by 60, and the actual house is 52 by 50. So it's 10 feet shorter than what this box here shows. So I told Michael that what I would do is I would move the house all the way to the front side, which would give me 10 feet further from the wetlands. Okay, and the wetlands are they've been flagged, but they're being put on a map. Once they're put on a map, you'll see that I have more than 75 feet away. If I don't have 75 feet, I have a lot of room to move. Okay, like the proposed house can move east 5 feet. The house is 10 feet shorter than what the proposed plan shows. I could move the proposed house 10 feet further forward, which would give me 20 feet further from the wetlands. So I have a lot of options, but I don't wanna move anything until I actually have the maps showing the.
When will you have that?
Well, he's working on it, so I mean, probably within a week to 10 days. But I mean, I'm gonna have him out there staking out his house on lot 7. And, you know, he's working on it, so we're gonna have.
So you're not seeking approval tonight?
I'm not seeking approval tonight.
You're just
When I
giving
come
us-
back next week, I'm gonna have
Next
all
month.
the plan, next month.
Okay.
When I come back next month, I'll have the real plan with all the new wetland flags.
But you
know,
could do the
showing-
same thing.
What?
You could do the same thing, so we wouldn't
There's
have
no
to.
urgency.
Or you can refer to, if Michael's
There's no
comfortable.
urgency, because I'm only building one house right now.
Okay,
I wanna
you're not-
get both foundations in
Okay.
before winter. but I'm, gonna start
But
on
you have
one.
the same situation with stabilizing the soil, with seeding it.
I am, yeah, but I'll only be doing the foundation, I won't be doing the septic system and the well and all that until
Okay.
next year.
My preference is to, rather than, I'd like to see how the experience goes.
Okay.
Between the permission you received and Michael being involved in final staking, to see if there's anything that doesn't work out the way you intended, or Michael senses.
Sure.
So from a comfort level, I would just as soon continue this application, being there's no urgency on your part anyway.
Right, and that's.
And
that's
the
what
more
I'm hoping.
documentation you give us, the easier it will help us give you the approval you're asking for.
Right.
So we're in good shape with
So
that.
next month when I come in, I'll have all the maps, and it should be cut and dry. If there's anything that needs to be changed, it'll be changed before the next
Very
meeting.
good. All right, so then we're gonna just continue application, 21-24, 112 Wygold Road. Is there someone to make a?
Get one of these?
I didn't take one because I have the one in the office, so I handed one out to
We
all.
made 8 of them, and then
I have it for the, I have it.
8 of you.
I have it for the file.
I'll take it. I like paper.
Well, someone didn't get one because.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I passed them out to all the commissioners.
Everybody has one?
Yeah, I passed them out to the 7 commissioners, and Pam has the one from the office. So this is-
Oh, okay, okay, she's got one. Okay.
Steve, you want me to second your motion?
Yeah, please.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you.
Second motion to continue.
To continue, is there any discussion on it? All those in favor to continue? Unanimous? Thank you. See you next month. Good luck with what you're doing.
We'll be in touch, Mr. Zink.
Okay, as soon as I get the lot stake.
Yes.
The house stake, I'll call
Come
you.
in. Perfect.
All right, 21-27, the applicant is Denise Pratt. The address is 225 West Wakefield Boulevard, demolishing existing cottage and construct new single-family residence. And we have a representative for the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Parsons with Leonard Engineering, to represent Denise Pratt. This property is located at 225 West Wakefield Boulevard. Shown here, this is the boulevard, the lake is across the street. We made our presentation last month, so in the interest of time, I'm not gonna go through the whole thing. Just a very brief recap. The applicant's proposing a single-family home on a 12-acre piece of property. There are no direct wetland impacts. There are what I would consider moderate impacts to the upland review area. And you're, in our application and at our last meeting, we described what those impacts were and described what we implemented for mitigation measures. Last month, the commission accepted the application, recommended I contact your agent for a field walk, which I did. Did have a field walk. Subsequently, he asked for silt fence to be installed. If you recall, there was some clearing done on the property. That silt fence was installed. So I think we're in pretty good shape. To the best of my knowledge, there are no other comments or concerns from the staff. So we are hoping we can approve it tonight.
When you were at this site and had a set of plans, were able to take a look at any wetlands concerns and
So, the site has, so it's across the street from Highland Lake, and then on the site at the very front, there is a dense forested patch, which has a swath of low-lying wetland in the rough center. That's not being disturbed at all. That's on the left side of the driveway. The disturbance that has already happened from the somewhat over-eager applicant's father has been, the silt fence is up. It's up in such a way that any accelerated erosion, unlikely as it might be because all of the roots are still there, would be caught, slowed down, deflected. It's not gonna go right into the wetlands and cause any water quality problems in any reasonable stretch of the imagination as far as I can see. This lot should be really, really, really big. Compared to most of the lots that are around Highland Lake, this lot is very large. It has a very, very large back area, which is not being disturbed at all. So when it comes to the overall state of this lot, it's still mostly forested. So from that standpoint of looking at this on a lot-by-lot basis, this lot is still fulfilling a large role as a forest patch for water, wildlife, whatever have you that you may be considering. At this time, I have no further concerns that have not already been addressed by the addition of the silt fence.
The area that's been cleared, Todd, is that where the cottage was?
No, the cottage.
Because I visited the site, I didn't see evidence of a cottage
The cottage was, at least a few hundred feet.
further off the lake.
Yes.
And if you didn't know that it was there after it was removed,
Yeah,
well, obviously you'd have to look for it.
Steve, here's the lot.
yeah, okay, yeah.
So it
I'm
was a
just
very
going by
small
visual.
cottage, and it's already been taken down.
Now, what are you going to do with that dirt road that would lead to that new house that's proposed?
The driveway exists.
There's an existing
Dirt
driveway.
road, yeah, driveway,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's just gonna stay.
Stay the way it
Already
is.
serves two houses. The Pratt's house and, parents' Pratt's house and the next house over. So we'll just be creating a small, stub off that driveway.
And it'll remain the way it is, dirt and whatever.
Yes, it's gravel with a pea stone surface.
Do you already have planning and zoning approval?
We don't need planning and zoning approval.
The lot is so large that it meets all setbacks and
Gotcha. Okay.
impervious cover. This is like 2% impervious cover.
Yeah, we're well below the impervious cover requirements.
Any other concerns? Russ?
No, I remember the site and looked at it.
Yeah, I
I
did also.
remember the project, so
No,
I know.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve application IWWC 21-27, demolish existing cottage and construct new family residence for 225 East Wakefield Boulevard. The application is Denise Pratt, and it's also the owner. Are there any catch and erosion bond? Do we need that there, given the distance?
I am relatively inexperienced with setting the values and determination of bonds. I would defer to Pam.
They've typically assessed $5 to $6 per linear foot of silt fence as a bond amount.
I think there's a bond necessary, but I also think there's enough of a natural buffer between the work area and the downhill toward the lake and the road and everything else, that the likelihood of any contamination is not very high. But I think just for our purposes, I do think we need a bond.
Of
$1,000.
$1,000?
Okay.
Okay?
And we have no other conditions on this, correct?
Correct?
Okay.
As-built?
Good?
Do you want an as-built? One at the end?
Well, that's usually through the building, that's something I think the building department
Always.
usually deals with.
Yeah, as part of a CO, you'd get an as-built.
Okay.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Andrea? All those, any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous? Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Good night.
Love a good tripod presentation.
The next application is 21-28. The owner is Barry Reardon, 622 East Wakefield Boulevard. The proposal is to replace rotted timber tie wall with block wall and steps. Introduce yourself, Barry.
Barry Reardon, 622 East Wakefield Boulevard.
You want to talk to us a little about what you're proposing? Only because last month we never saw your application. It was before us, but time just, sort of talk to us about it a little.
So the house I just bought in April had these timber tied wall and steps, and they were rotted. The wall was actually fell down. So I wanted to stop any erosion. I want to put in what's called a block wall, the exact same size and height and
sorry, is this a new application?
It
Yeah.
came in last
It
week.
came in last month,
Right.
but we formally accepted it, but didn't talk about it at all because of the timing.
Packet from last month, if not, I can share with you. Okay.
So, Mr. Reardon's silt fence, when I first visited the site on the 14th of June, the silt fence hadn't been adequately buried. But as you can see with that picture there, that's really the ideal of a silt fence. You've gone above and beyond to making sure that there's going to be no erosion off that area that would get into the lake. It is buried along the back, and it even has a buffer of hay along the front. So that's very good, extremely secure. I visited the site on Monday, on the 19th of July, and I found conditions were exactly as they were when I visited on the 21st of June. I noted no significant erosion that would warrant further controls, and found that Mr. Reardon had been in compliance with the whole time.
And can you repeat what type of material you're gonna be using? For
It's
the step?
block, it's like a concrete block,
Okay.
that's manufactured, engineered stone.
And that's here in the photo?
Yes.
Okay.
You wouldn't know it wasn't a real stone.
Okay.
Nice material.
So the work's already started somewhat.
So those are, I don't believe those are set in any way. So Mr. Reardon has been working throughout his site, some of which is upland as you go up the hill. It's a bit away from the lake. And he has been doing a great amount of work on the inside of his house, really a complete reno.
Okay.
This block wall is consistent with the other types of several walls which are on his site, which I thankfully did not back into on Monday. Sorry about that again. No, I do not believe that this wall, as you see it, is set in any way, shape, or form. I believe these materials are just here. And when I spoke to Mr. Reardon on the first time we spoke, this was the condition they were in. Nothing has changed.
So this property was recently purchased by Mr. Reardon. It had been before you as recently as October with a different owner who had only owned it for a short time. You'll recall that he had a non-conforming dock with piers, and the commission had purchased it subject to conditions that had not yet been met with the patio next to the lake. That had a long history of stuff on this property. So as part of this, I don't recall if you were proposing changing anything with, you were provided copies of, what the commission had,
Previously approved.
yeah, so you're still planning to put in a vegetative buffer. I don't remember exactly along the patio.
To the right of these pictures, there's a not a circular patio with a circular pattern, I believe.
Yes, I believe
And
so.
it's right abutting the water.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the patio's been there for a long time,
Yeah.
because I called Four Seasons Landscaping, so I put that in 30 years ago.
No, 2009.
Okay, and nothing, is anything happening with that surface there?
No, I'm not gonna touch that.
Okay.
Do we know what pervious and impervious coverage is?
It's,
That's a big property.
yeah, but it's, I just wanna make sure that you address that patio, since this is a new owner who had no idea of the dock, that when you approved the dock during the deep drawdown,
Yeah.
the approval was that the dock has to be replaced in 5 years.
Yeah, I remember
It had to
that.
come into conformity within 5 years. That'd be-
Correct, right,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
he had to come into
This is the
conformity
patio in
within 5
question?
years.
Yeah,
Yes, so the water is just beyond my
Right.
finger right
Yeah.
here. So this is the patio in question, which exists, if you're looking at the image in your wetlands report, this is just beyond where I was standing. If I had turned
Right.
around from where I was taking a picture, that patio would be there.
Do we know what the pervious and impervious coverage is?
That is of the site, let's
I don't
look.
think we have the old file there.
Does this have a?
This is the dock that had like a thing
so I,
attached.
yeah, so I bought to it,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So that owner recently, so he got rid of the property.
He sold the property to this gentleman.
The survey I have on file here does not have the zoning table, so I can't just pull off out the top of it the impervious percentage. But I believe that patio is definitely impervious.
A lot of grass growing through
Well,
it.
are we talking about the patio or the dock?
No, the
We're
patio.
not talking about the dock right
dock
now,
has nothing-
he's aware of it, but just the patio, just,
What?
The patio is made of impervious material. Whether or not it now fits together well enough to be considered impervious is beyond my ability to say right now.
But he's not touching that anyway.
No, absolutely
but
not.
he is held to the standards of the conditions that were just approved maybe less than a year ago.
But the conditions centered on the dock, if I recall.
Yes.
But you also addressed the patio, because the patio was subject to a violation and an after-the-fact fee in 2009, because the gentleman at that time had replaced the patio because his wife was allergic to bees. And there was a cease and desist issued, a violation, an after-the-fact fee, and then an ultimate approval that the patio could remain, but that a vegetative buffer be installed between the lake and the patio itself.
I do remember that.
And then it never got done for whatever lack of follow-up from, town staff, why else? And so then when that second owner came forward with a lake wall replacement, we had a non-conforming dock and we had that unresolved patio violation.
Did any work get done though? On the
Before
lake
this
wall?
guy sold to Mr. Reardon?
Right.
No.
Okay,
The wall got done,
okay.
I think, right? Yeah.
We repaired the
So
wall,
it's
yeah.
just because we're
So
in
it's
this-
just the patio that we're talking about. I mean, the dock, there's
I
no
don't
discussion
think
about the dock, but because the site is already being landscape disturbed, what do you want to do with the vegetative buffer from
think
2000?
there's
Mr. Reardon,
any-
are you willing to put in a vegetative buffer between the patio and the wall?
What is a vegetative buffer?
Vegetation, just
Grass?
No.
Otherwise, remove it, because,
Flowers,
There's a list of.
bushes.
because if he goes to
flower
see,
something that will take her.
it'll still be.
It's basically to help with erosion control and
So-
sedimentation.
Yeah, so if I could remove maybe a couple feet of block between the water and the wall and then put some vegetation there? That's what you're asking?
Yeah.
I have
And
a
it
question.
also stopped the
How,
geese.
how close, how close is
Help
the,
me with the geese.
how close does the patio come to the seawall, the lake wall?
It abuts
It abuts it?
Yeah, it abuts it.
So you can't put a vegetative buffer in there,
Boy, say-
I'll have a
other
lot.
than removing,
Yeah, have to remove
part of the
Yeah.
patio.
I mean, I don't, if you'd like that, I mean, it's all good for the lake, so
Do
I
you
can
want,
remove a couple.
do you
feet.
wanna keep the patio?
I've never really thought about it, I'm just more concerned about the landscape.
This
with that wall and
application
the step.
is,
Yeah.
we're
I
going
just
way
want
she-
beyond this
Well, because this application is a product of after the work had already begun. So I phoned him and I asked him to
So
stop
there's a tie-in
and
to
to
the old
come in with an application. Rather than issuing a cease and desist, would
Yeah.
you informally cease and desist, come in with an application, get approval, and he has complied
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we do have an opportunity to correct old stuff that was part of old permits at this point. Certainly on a landscaping standpoint, right? Because stuff could be dug up and a vegetative buffer be put in, which was
Like I said, in
originally.
order to put a vegetative buffer, he's gotta pull out stone.
And he may be looking to replace that patio at some point and then come. I just want the commission to kind of formalize it in the record. What are you doing with that? Because that hasn't been done yet, and now we've had a transfer. We've had the second transfer since that original violation.
Didn't
And
know what you were getting into when you bought this place.
Nobody, you're not alone.
Being he's not touching that patio area, for now, we could be silent on that.
I'd like some direction. Do you-
Unless he would rather do it now because he has
But
people
I
there.
think we caught him by surprise, in all honesty.
No, I told him about that when he came in, and I think he was pretty thunderstruck about all of it, because I don't think he knew about any of it.
That's what I'm
As
saying.
far as the dock,
You know, yeah.
but he's not just learning it tonight, is what I'm saying. I'm not sandbagging him at the meeting. I discussed it with him, and the commission, or your direction that you can give tonight is that, it's gotta be done within 5 years, 3 years. He may wanna replace the patio anyways at some point and then come in, but just, I wanna address, because that was part of the open permit from 2020.
But
But he had 5 years
Well,
to
that's
do
why I
that.
was just asking him if he wanted to do it.
Five
I
years to
think,
Put that buffer in.
look, if you wanna do something with that patio eventually, you'll have to come in with
Yeah.
another permit and we'll have to deal with it.
That-
If
what's
now
that?
that,
No, right now, I think there's language in the previous permit which talks about what has to be done with the patio.
right, but the previous owner didn't do it.
But the permit is transferred.
Well, it's, you know, the violation technically still, you know, it's never been resolved, even though, you know.
Does the new owner inherit the violation?
The new owner inherits all open permits.
Oh.
Yeah.
They don't inherit permit applications, but you inherit all permits for your property for their duration when you acquire a new title.
We inherit all the good things and all the bad things.
So if in the previous permit, the patio was a violation that had conditions about its removal, hypothetically, by inheriting the permit, you inherit the conditions for the removal of the patio. However, Mr. Reardon, there's something kind of implicit in the idea of inheriting the permit of the person who inherits the permit knows about it for a certain amount of time of this is how much time you have to deal with this problem. And you know about it because we handed this to you and from the day we hand it to you, you have X amount
No,
of time.
well, the permit goes with the applicant, the violation goes with the land. So the violation was remedied through a permit, you know, this, I'm talking 2009.
Okay,
And
well,
it was never
Addressed.
completed. It was never completed. So then you get another, and then it was discovered in 2020 when he came in with his non-conforming dock, and it's like, uh-oh, well, what about this? Like, you know, does it mean anything that it was never done? And then as part of that 2020 approval, you said, no, I want that vegetative buffer.
Yeah.
That wasn't done still, and now
And-
it's transferred.
Can we, for purposes of moving this process along, the applicant's proposal, approve what he's asking for and let him come back to us with the remedy for the patio buffer zone,
So
or
approve
how
with
you
the
want to address the patio itself?
approve
And it may
it,
behoove you,
Whatever you want
it may
it back.
behoove you to move on it faster because you're gonna have equipment back there, you're gonna have laborers back there, you're gonna have manpower back there, and the area that you're working on is adjacent to the problem, so to speak, that patio.
but Steve, you're saying approve with a condition that he come back with a remedy for that open issue that he inherited from the previous
He doesn't,
permit.
I don't think he needs to address it now. He's got 5 years to
call.
address it.
5 years to do it.
It's your call.
I don't think so. We gave him 5 years on the dock, but not on the replacing the existing French drain between the lawn and the patio. I'm looking at the permit letter right here. The approval letter says, owner to replace existing French drain between lawn and patio to be replaced with a vegetative buffer garden based on the 2009 approval. The only thing that we gave 5 years on
Was the
was to
dock
bring the
itself?
existing dock into compliance, yep, before October 7th, 2025.
Where are you making reference to that?
This is
The,
Pam's
The
letter that she went to the previous owner
Okay.
with the application approval notification.
Will
So, we could approve with a condition that he come back with a proposal for what he wants to do about that patio piece so that he doesn't have to decide right now.
Or you can approve it, you know, based on conditions of what is the data that are to be completed, you know, condition number whatever,
15,
condition number 15 of whatever the date of the approval.
October 15th, 2020, October 7th, 2020.
Is to be completed by whatever date, and then if he doesn't want to do that, he can always come back for another modification. He may go home, think about it, and, you know, and then you can always modify.
That's a good idea.
You okay with that? I mean, we're
know,
trying
it's
to work,
getting
we're trying, you're new to the environment of the address. Apparently, there were things that you inherited that you probably were not aware of. And, trying to be courteous and allow you time to digest some of the discussion that took place now, so that you can go back and try to remedy it in your mind and see how you want to approach it. And you have time to do that, and based on the information for what you're asking for tonight, we have the support of the wetlands agent, that we can move ahead and approve that, but we have to sort of talk to the 5-year plan, or it could be next month's plan, to remedy the violation, so to speak.
Vegetation part and all.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna give you vegetation there.
okay.
I'm just gonna remove the blocks and I'll plant nice vegetation.
Not the blocks, the stone
The
surrounding the
mountains.
block.
Stone around that, right?
Yeah.
The blocks stay. If you want to remove the blocks, then you come back to the commission.
Should we refer an agent approval for how that work actually happens? So Michael can go back out, you guys can discuss it and, yeah, okay,
Least painful.
yeah.
All right, any other discussion on this? Mary Ann, you wanna make the motion? Being you're
Sure.
leading the conversation?
I'll make a motion to approve IWWC 21-28, 622 East Wakefield Boulevard, to replace rotted timber tie wall with block wall and steps according to the plan submitted, which was reviewed by Agent Michael Stankov, with a condition that item 15 on application IWWC 20-34 is also addressed within the same time period that this current project is being done. We will refer that item 15 from previous application 20-34 to Agent Stankov for review and agent determination in terms of the specifics of how it's done.
A second?
I'll second it.
Russ, and any conversation? Is there a bond necessary?
I don't think so. He's got the fence down already. Well,
Fence
I
looks
don't know, what do
great.
you think?
Well, we usually do what?
close to the water.
$5 for every linear
It's
foot?
close to the water.
Yeah, I think for consistency, we normally
Yeah.
have a bond on any of
Yeah.
these.
About how many linear feet is it?
I'm really bad with eyeballing feet.
I would say it's 70, 80 feet,
Something like that.
$750, something.
That's only $1 a foot.
What do you wanna make it, $2 a foot? Come
Well,
on.
Pam said 5 is the rule of thumb.
Well, all the precautions are up, and we see them up. It's just a matter of if they break down, so to speak.
If it's 75 feet, $5 a foot, it's $375.
Sounds good.
And this job is, I mean, I'll be done with that wall.
Okay, at bond of $375.
We'll be in touch.
Before you begin, we have to vote on it. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Before you begin the actual work or the restoration of the work, please let Pam know or Mike know that you're gonna start again.
Sure thing.
All right? All right, thank you very much. Have a good night,
Thank
Barry.
you.
Good night. Application 21-29, the owner is Bob Leach, 183 Lowsaw Road.
Yes.
Declaratory ruling sought for a timber harvest.
Sir,
For the records, please introduce yourself.
I'm Ethan King. I'm a supervising forest products harvester. I'm from Western Massachusetts, and I'm here to represent Mr. Leach.
Okay? You want to talk to us about what you're proposing?
Yeah, so what we're looking to do is, it's very heavily forested, very heavy on the white ash. Obviously, it's completely infested with emerald ash borer. So Mr. Leach kind of wants to sell his ash trees before they become insect food, basically, and a liability. And there's other species present on the property, red oak, sugar maple, red maple. And what we're proposing to do with those is just sort of a commercial thinning. And just, spacing them out.
Oh, this is not this is something that, it's not in a wetland area, but it comes under our.
There are some wetlands on site. So my standard disclaimer, I am not a soil scientist. I did not go out with an auger and take soil samples. I went and tromped around on the property up and down hills looking for wet spotches and areas where there was flowing water. There are selective patches. However, a timber harvest, particularly when you're not clear cutting in and around a wetland, is an as-of-right activity. And this is a selective harvest. There are a couple of pictures I've included where you can occasionally see there are some trees that are marked with blue spray paint, which I presume are the trees that are marked if you take it down. It's not a large percentage of the trees on site.
No, basically, we are gonna remove all the white ash just because they're gonna become a liability. And other than that, like I said, we're just looking to do a selective harvest on the rest of the stuff.
How much of a diversion will you possibly be on site compared to what you've asked for in your application and which all of the agencies have approved already or signed off on? You're gonna stay consistent with what you're asking for, or they're gonna be on-site decisions?
No, it'd be consistent with what I'm asking for. So in my little packet, I don't know, did everybody get one of those? Okay, so I have so those little drainages, I kind of call them a seasonal drainage. I mean, I guess you could call them a wetland, whatever. But to access some of the area, I will have to cross, and I'm proposing to do a corduroy crossing, which you guys are probably familiar with it. I can portable bridge, but the bank heights are a little bit low, and I think it's gonna impede the stream if there is water running, just because there's no bank height there, so I'm proposing just, corduroy.
What is a corduroy? Because I'm not exactly, I think
It's
I know what it
basically
is,
just
but.
take smaller logs and put them
Right.
90 degrees or in the direction of the flow, so
Right.
the water can still flow and won't.
Timber
impede.
mats.
What's that?
Yeah,
Timber
timber
mats.
mats, basically.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, I know what you mean.
And you're talking about 50 quart of ash roughly?
Yeah, 50,000 board feet mixed. It's heavy on the ash. I don't know if you're familiar with 1,000 board feet. So a board foot is a 1 by 1 by, or 1 foot by 1 foot by
Square?
1 inch.
Oh.
It's an estimate. Yes, it's an estimate. It's a standard how all timber harvests are measured.
Pam, is the paperwork for this all in order?
It's
Seems to
one
be,
of, it's one
you
of
know.
those, yes, it's one of those things that are allowed.
So Marilyn Monroe got it right? Huh?
I'm not sure what you mean,
I don't know
but
what
I
that
think
means.
That's an
yeah,
answer.
I think the application is.
What does that mean?
You're showing your age.
No.
I don't know. I haven't heard of it.
All right, are there any other questions that we have of the applicant's representative?
I'd be happy, you've already been to the site, be happy to.
Oh, I need another leg day, so I'm happy to go up and down
That's
those
a
hills
good
again.
place for
That's a
leg day.
great,
When-
the
when
extent,
do-
oh my God.
Pending approval, when do you plan on harvesting?
I was hoping to do it this summer. The recent torrential rains are definitely gonna impede that.
And how much time do you need to finish?
It's probably, it's so varies with the weather so much, but in the right conditions, 6 to 8 weeks. But if I had started 3 weeks ago and then we got 3 weeks of rain, that adds another probably month and a half to the project.
Okay. All right, just so we have a general idea.
No, I understand.
And for your information, our rule of thumb is that before you begin, you talk to Pam or our agent,
No problem.
so that they know, do we need a bond, or it's not
No, you can't
necessarily
ask
at
for a
all? We
bond.
can't.
It's an as-of-right activity.
Okay, so then,
Yeah, I'm more than happy.
it becomes the decision of us, or is it an automatic that they came before us and there's no approval needed?
This is, what is being sought by the applicant is a declaratory ruling that this is an as-of-right activity, so I think it would be a motion to find that the activity is an as-of-right activity and requires no permit.
Okay? Can we use that language for the motion?
Yep.
All right? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll make the motion, based on what Mike said, and there's a second, Jeff? We don't need any bond, any discussion on it?
Do a bond.
No bond.
No. All those in favor? Okay, thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you.
Mike, you have my phone number?
I have your application, if your phone number's on there, I have your phone number.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'd like to meet up with you.
Fantastic,
Check
yeah.
out the property.
Awesome, that's
Thank
great.
you.
Just call me.
Thank you.
Next application is 21-30. The owner is Norman J. Laliberti Jr., 416 West Wakefield Boulevard. Add a retaining wall and paver pathway. You are?
Norman Laliberti Jr.
Okay, thank you.
Home address is 28 Skyline Drive, Middlebury. This is my three-season cottage.
Would you speak up a little?
Yes. I live in Middlebury, but this is my three-season cottage.
Okay.
As established. I went through an application earlier during Zoom meeting time, so I sat through 2 very long Zoom meetings.
Oh, yeah.
Folks, and I appreciate how late you hung in there for those meetings. If you remember, back then, I tabled some of it because I only was concerned about the stuff that could be done during the deep draw. So what's in the yellow on this drawing, I just highlighted to make it a little bit easier, 'cause there's so much on this cramped up drawing that you guys all have. But we put the seawall on both sides, and we had dock approval. There was a wooden dock, we removed the wooden dock and put a wooden dock in. That work has been completed. I also, at the time, was looking to put some additional large stone along the water edge in front of the cottage on the lakeside, and the board did not want me to bring any equipment down on the water, so I did not have a way to get those large stones down there. So I did have approval to hand carry stone underneath the cottage to try to slow down the water. And we have done that. We made 3 good-sized berms underneath the cottage. And it seemed to be working until last Saturday on July 9th and 10th, when it seemed like the water was the highest I've ever seen it in 25 years. So I did have a serious amount of soil fall into the water that's on, like where the screen highlighted is. There were some photographs we had from the last application that was getting erosion along the shore where the cottage meets the shore.
That's the back end of the house on the land.
On the street side.
Yeah.
And that Saturday, I showed up there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I could not believe how high the water level was. And the water was just washing the soil underneath the cottage. I've never had the bottom of that cottage ever get wet before. It was wet. And, I took every piece of rock that I could find that we had in this potential patio area, and my wife and myself and my 9-year-old carried rock for 2 hours, and we shored it up, and it looks like it stopped any further erosion. But it was a mess, you know. So I'm not really sure what happened. I assume some water got let out of the dam on a weekend, which is not the right time to do it with all the boat activity. But I'm just guessing. I don't know. But okay. Anyway, so now the stuff that I had tabled to get through it in the fall is what I'm back here to apply for. And one additional thing that I hadn't applied for back then was an afterthought is I have an application in for underground utilities. Because I'm going to put up those stone walls, I might as well solve the fact that I've got a low-hanging wire. My neighbor already did underground utilities when the place burned down, and he rebuilt it a couple years ago. So I'm looking to run some conduit before I put these walls up and fix the walkway. Where the blue is now on this drawing is a slight shift to how the walkway is now, because before there used to be a huge tree here that fell back in Storm Sandy, and it made you kind of walk around the tree to get to the cottage. So all we would be doing now is when we take out this walkway, put a new walkway in, is make it straight and direct rather than have this bend at the end. The purple represents, these 3 lines represent the additional stone walls that I had applied for before and tabled. And one of the reasons why I didn't have enough elevations on the drawings, and he had asked a lot of questions that I wasn't capable of answering back then. But I've learned an awful lot by sitting through all these meetings with you people. So I'm looking, the underground utilities, the 3 stone walls, and then I'm looking to put a patio here, and it changes my impervious coverage, but I have a reason why I think you should consider allowing it. Is what I hatched here in green is part of my impervious count, according to my surveyor, because anything that has a roof over it is part of my impervious count, is what he's telling me. But this entire cottage is built on concrete piers sitting up in the air, except for July 9th and 10th. And it's not anywhere close to the water, so it doesn't affect the drainage in any way by that roof coverage. This hatched-in area here is where there's stone as part of the parking area that my neighbor and I share up there. That's part of my impervious count as well.
Who owns that property that you're sharing?
I own it, it's mine up to the line, and this stone continues in front of the neighbor's house next door, the Traub's house, so they park their cars there, and then I have room for 2 cars there as well.
That's all pretty close to Wakefield Boulevard.
Yes.
Is there any area that the town owns?
It's shown on here, you know, the line right here.
Yeah,
This
okay.
is all stone here before you get to the road. So this whole
I see.
area is stone from the neighbors and across mine. It's been like that for before.
And that's town owned?
Yes. Yes.
So none of this proposal involves town-owned land?
No, I'm off the town.
Okay,
line.
you're just
That was
crossing.
the question you'd asked me.
Yeah,
before,
you're just
and I couldn't
crossing
answer.
over it to get to what you
Correct.
want to do.
Correct, right.
The patio on the left that's in blue,
Yes.
in visiting the site, it looks like it's framed in stone, and then it's backfilled with some kind of crushed rock or something?
No, it's all big riprap.
Oh,
that's down
riprap,
there.
okay.
Right, right.
And what are you proposing to do with it?
I'm looking to put a paver patio in there. And that's where my impervious count gets changed, but that's including the stone and including the part of the house that's actually built up on piers. It's not sitting on the land.
Michael? That area is all filled with riprap, he said?
To the best of my observation,
It
when I was
is.
there,
I
yes.
saw it, you know. My point is there gonna be any distinction between coverage between what's there now and putting an impervious surface on top of what's there now?
He's gonna need a variance.
It-
What?
He's gonna need a variance.
So that'll be zoning, because the percent, the
Coverage.
nonconformity is increasing, but that specific increase, that is for ZBA.
Yeah, he'll need a variance for impervious surface and for a patio within 20 feet of the lake or 9 feet of the side yard.
So that's before ZBA, after approval here.
No, what I was gonna say, so then, just center on what you're asking for us to approve.
The underground utility line,
Okay.
the 3 stone walls, replacing the wood and stone, crushed stone walkway with a paver walkway, and the stone patio, and the paver patio.
Well, the paver patio has to go before ZBA.
I didn't know that from the town.
Oh, that's why, so that's not,
Yeah, but I still need your approval before I can go to ZBA, right? That's how it's been in other
No,
towns.
not necessarily,
Then
but.
go concurrent? Okay.
I have a question, where water edge 10, 12, 20, it looks like there's an arrow with nothing depicted.
The water edge he's referring to is the 1983 map line of where the shore used to be. That's how much it's eroded from 1983 to now.
So when the house was built, there was soil underneath it?
It was before I owned it, but that's the way the drawing showed it. When I owned it, where the new wall is that we just put up, there was land here, and kind of, little by little, it was like, you know, underneath the cottage, maybe like where these piers are, in the middle, but now it's all the way back to the piers.
almost is like the cottage, well, it's not, it's the cottages on stilts, basically.
It is, yes, but it used to have more shore underneath it, and little by little, it's, you know, last Saturday, I thought I was gonna have to get a gang walkway to get out there, because it was starting to really.
Where is the sewer ejection pump located?
There's 2 circles here.
Okay.
One of those is a sewer ejector pump, and I think the other one might have been an abandoned well that's got a tap and a lock on it. I'm not really sure, you know.
In your lifetime of owning the property, do you know, was it ever used for anything? The abandoned well or whatever?
No.
And And what about, do you have,
When I took the lock, I cut the lock off of it and looked in it, and I can see kind of water down there, but there's nothing connected to it, so I've capped,
are you gonna remedy that, or are you just gonna put the lock back
I
on?
don't wanna open a can of worms, so I don't, I was just gonna kind of leave it there and then put a planter on top of it.
Now, do you have a natural well, your own well?
No, lake water,
You draw water from the lake?
yes. So that's why it's three season, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Plus,
And that's the pipe that's going out on the left side of the property,
it comes, the pipe for the water is
it's out over there, yeah, sure, okay.
And, again, because it sits on stilts, I could never, even if I had a well, I have no way to protect the line from freezing. I mean, it's all open, so.
If I may, Mr. Chair. So the site right now, as it exists, that hill is very steep, not particularly well vegetated, and in a heavy rainstorm like that, which we have been having, the potential for erosion and very rapid water flow into the lake is high. However, with that said, I cannot speak with any confidence to how that will change because of these 3 masonry walls that are being added. Those are going to significantly change the topography of the site. Without an engineer's report about how water flow direction and rate is going to change, I cannot say that this will improve the site. I imagine it would, just from my kind of inherent sense of how this works, but I cannot speak with any confidence that I can say, yes, this would make the water rate and erosion better. So it could be a good idea to get an engineer to come in and say, yeah, this is gonna fix the problem, put a rain garden over here, and we'll capture it.
That would help, some
What,
kind of rain
the
garden.
retaining walls, I'm not sure, I'm looking at these, I'm trying to see what these are spec'd out as, what the retaining walls are. I see that they're 2.5 feet, it says, and the street lines are to be 2.5 feet above ground level, but what are the retaining walls? Are they block walls or?
The same stone that I used on this and this.
Okay, so
Natural stone.
they're natural stone, they're field stone essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're natural.
Are they concrete
No.
in between, they're just,
No, he has concrete filled, yes.
They're gonna be mortar joints.
Just like the one,
okay.
yes. I think I need that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So does the water flow right off the road onto the property?
Yes.
There's no culverts on the road there?
No.
So it comes down off that hill, right across the road and,
Yeah.
well,
I mean, it's all, I mean, there's no asphalt other than the road itself. I mean, this
It's all pea stone,
whole
right?
area is all pea stone.
Right.
So, I mean, it doesn't, we don't see the water running through it, but it means.
but it does,
rains,
yeah.
so you're
That's
getting
pretty
some-
steep slope too.
It is, and, so, I mean, to answer your question of what the walls are for.
Right, I know,
Okay, the bottom wall is for us to help, kind of slow down some of that.
you're terracing
right?
essentially.
The one on top is because I have a parking area that's starting to deteriorate.
Right.
And at the same time, it's kind of a scary thing when people pull up a car and it's like, they can't see, when you're pulling up to something, your hood of your car is blocking it.
Probably an 8 or 10 foot drop over, what,
Yeah.
20 feet?
I've had, people park their car and I go up there and tell them, listen, you're still sticking to the road 6 feet because
Yeah.
they're afraid to go any further and there's 10 more feet in front of them, but they can't see.
Sure.
So there's another problem with the stockpile area being located in the town's right of way. You have to, you can't encroach onto town property without town approval. Like, you have to contain your work area to your own property
Or remove it.
or, no, the stockpile area. He's
Oh.
got a temporary stockpile area on the town's right of way, on the town's property, in other words.
Well, I think if at Mike's suggestion, and we're gonna support it, move ahead with some kind of an engineer's review of the proposal, that he's gonna have to address that stockpiling area and where he typically would like to place it. And I think it may be moved as you work on sections of the wall to
I mean,
have
this-
access to it.
This entire duration is 2 weeks worth of work. So it's not like this is, 3-4 months worth of work. It's
Right.
2 weeks, including allowing for bad weather. I mean, honestly, it'll take my stone masons 4 days to do this work, but, a day to dig it out, four days to put it up. Get some bad weather in there and.
And there's a lot of backfill involved, there's a lot of,
Well, how long are the walls? I mean, they're fairly long. I mean, it may,
The whole length of the property.
The whole length of the property, it may take them a little bit longer, but, you know,
well, the water here, it's all
He did
on land.
all of this work here in less than a week once I got it.
okay, all right, so you
What-
have a better understanding.
How many footage of wall you proposing from left to right, going up to the, where you're putting the utilities underground? From left to right, so from your property there to the utilities, how far?
This is about 50 feet.
So you have another
And
50
then another
feet,
20 there.
and then, but you have 50 feet twice,
Yes,
How tall is the wall?
30 inches.
30
each
inches.
wall.
Each wall.
Now, this wall is, I've been there, it's a very steep hill.
Yes.
So these walls have to hold back that
Yes.
hill. So I would think they would need to be dug in quite a bit.
Well, they're gonna go down, they have to go down the ground about 2 feet, but 30 inches above ground is what we.
So you think you're gonna do this in 2
It'll
weeks?
be, so the walls are actually 5 to 6 feet tall.
Yes.
Well, there's probably process underneath it. Really put, process stone underneath it and compact it, and then the walls go up 3 feet from there.
Yeah. But it'll be
I
a couple
think-
feet in the ground and 3 feet.
You're not pouring concrete under the wall as a foundation?
No.
You put weep holes along the bottom of the wall.
There've been a lot of
That's not
walls built.
spec'd out or anything, is it? My concern is more almost for you, is that I feel like that the actual construction of the wall should be fairly spec'd out. You know, like, normally we see a set of plans of the wall of, you know, of weep holes, of how, if you're gonna compact soil or compact fill underneath that, how much, what type of fill.
I've got
I mean-
6 guys who hardly speak any English, they're
Right.
Albanian who do this.
Yeah,
work
no,
here.
no, I know that,
you know,
but they're
getting-
not, for your protection, they're not following
Yeah.
how they,
For our protection.
Well, both of
We
us,
need
yeah.
to know
Yeah.
more specificity, more detail,
We're
the
asking for
review.
engineer plans.
This could be addressed
Yeah.
in
You know,
an
this
engineer's
is,
report.
I think this is an initial concept of what you're proposing. You're gonna leave here with what we'd like to see come back to us to satisfy our needs. And at that point, we would consider approval or not. But right now, it's superficial in terms of, you know, you have conceptualized what you want. Now you have to put it into detail so that we can put it in the files and we know what we're approving specifically as it in, you know, a mom and pop kind of job.
because the engineer may spec out a better way to do this, do these retaining walls, and then your guys would be able to follow it exactly to per plan, as opposed to just the way they might think work would do it. And we're thinking, without the engineer's plan, it might help the erosion, it potentially,
have him go.
potentially could make things worse or change stuff that we're not aware of. And since we're right on the water, I think we require that of most people in these situations, that we do have you know, an engineered set of plans. I think it's a good thing for both of us.
There's that much water coming off that hill, then someone should figure a way to get it to
And obviously,
leach.
I'm gonna have to come back to still work on improving the erosion I'm still getting from the lakeside. because-
And then the engineer will probably be able to
That's
fix
where
that.
your
It didn't
engineer,
help, it didn't help
that's,
enough.
Right,
that's
well,
where
the
your
engineer will probably,
Wait,
that's what you get him
Could be
for.
prudent to put up a silt fence now,
Since he had that experience.
if you,
Yeah.
and if it pleases you, because this is, you know, not it's not being approved now, so it's not a condition, but you could choose to put up a silt fence, which could make sure that you're not losing any soil.
Well, the problem is I'm not losing it from the street side, I'm losing it from the lake side.
That's true.
You know, so the silt fence isn't gonna do me any good from that direction, you know? But what like all that riffraff we put down there definitely stopped me. It was obviously, as soon as we started putting stone there, you know.
you're saying the erosion didn't come from the water hitting,
Yes, it did.
no,
Yeah.
it came from the water hitting underneath your cottage,
Correct.
not from the drainage or the
Correct.
water going down the slope from the road.
Correct.
Okay.
It was not right in front of my.
This is a modification, and normally with modifications, we could approve it if we're satisfied. I think you've sensed that we're not satisfied, that you've given us enough detail as to the scope and sequence, the the engineer's report, the proposal of the wall itself, how you planning to treat the underground power lines. So you're gonna have to come back with that kind of information for us to move ahead for approval. So I think we're gonna just simply continue this, Pam, because we officially, we sort of accepted it last month because it was presented on our agenda and we didn't even talk about it. So this is our first opportunity to explore anything with you. So you sort of get a sense of where we are. My suggestion would be to meet with Pam and Michael during the week that's coming up so that you really get a firm understanding of what we need to help you complete your process. And at that point, you'll be back before us, hopefully next month, if you give us what we need by next month. And try to get it to us the weekend before the meeting.
I tried to get I got the revisions, because Pam had made a lot of suggestions, and
Yeah.
so I went back to the surveyor for.
A lot depends upon how fast your engineers and your contractors
My
work.
surveyor is not an engineer, so that's
Right,
part of the,
and
Yeah.
that's-
you know, so.
Yeah.
We've really hit that point, and it just happens with, as you know, through a lot of meetings, that we hit a point where it's out of the scope of what a surveyor can really spec out. Or a block company can give some boilerplate specs for. It needs the engineer design.
I have another question. In between the walls, as you go down the hill, what's gonna be in between them?
Grass.
Just grass? Is it gonna be flat, or is it gonna be still
I
slope?
don't think I can get much flatness, in between those walls. I think there's gonna be some.
You'd have to, second
Some
wall
slope.
down would have to be more than 30 inches to create a flat surface.
But see, the engineer could tell you what kind of shrubs to put in there that could help any erosion issues.
Yeah, we haven't even, we haven't even thought that out yet, it's, like, when I bought this, there was 10 trees in that front. And Storm Sandy took out 8 of those 10 trees. in the storm. And I was extremely lucky, because only one of them caught a little corner of the cottage and a piece of the deck. All of them fell all around.
Maybe you would have been more lucky if you took the cottage down and collected insurance.
Three of them were in the water, and we had to wait for the water to drain
Really?
out to get them back.
So that probably dramatically changed the site.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
All right, we're good?
If I can just ask you
Sure,
one
go ahead.
question. It is about the impervious part with the overhang of the cottage.
I am not qualified to answer that question. Again, that's an engineer thing. Ask your engineer about, because of overhang, is there a more accurate formula to calculate actual infiltration, considering that you're right over the lake and it's not really stopping water flow?
Right.
But yeah, talk about that with an engineer who's looked at those formulas way more recently than I have.
Pam, should he, also, would he be well advised to talk to Public Works if he knows he needs to stockpile on town property?
It wouldn't be Public Works,
Who would it be?
Board of Selectmen.
Oh,
It's town
boy.
property.
Okay.
The engineer will find a place for your material.
Okay.
Sequence plan, yes.
So we have a motion to continue application 21-30 for next month.
I will make a motion to continue application IWWC
21-31, but the
21-31.
30, and the modification is 20-50.
That's it.
Okay?
Do I have a second?
Second?
Second.
Jackie? Favor? That's unanimous?
Thank you.
All right, good night and good luck.
Mr. Chairman, if you might want to move the Zacchios up, they've been waiting patiently.
Okay?
It looks like 2131's
They
not
may have
here.
some.
Nobody else here, so.
Yeah, return back to 31.
Good evening.
Hello.
Sorry you were last on the agenda.
We filed it. I have a letter here from a neighbor, saying that they had no problem with the system. I don't know who would like it.
Give it to Pam.
Sorry it wasn't in with the regular packet, but my neighbor was away on his
Just let the record show, it's a Michael Simon, July 17, 2021, of 112 Shore Dry. Let it be known that I have no problem with the irrigation system and support the improvement on their property.
If it pleases the commission, for me to speak about this one, when Mrs. Zacchio originally contacted the office because she and her husband were planning on putting in an irrigation system, pulling water from the lake to irrigate their lawn, and had contacted Pam to give an idea of here's what they were planning on doing with a
May I
lawn
just
auger.
correct it 1 second? I didn't know it was from the lake. It was just an irrigation system, and if I understood, I thought it was horizontal boring type thing where, you know, or like a dog fence trenching, you know, very minimal excavation. I didn't know it was from the lake.
These are, the excavation with these kinds of trenching devices is very, very minimal. Technically, it is still excavation and is not considered unless this commission finds that this is considered landscaping, it is not considered a permitted activity, which is why I asked the Zacchias to come before the board tonight. Now, many individuals around the lake do have irrigation systems that draw from the lake. This is a known thing. Many people have these systems. In my authority as the wetlands agent, I thought I would bring it before you tonight, recommended the Zacchias bring it before you to create some sort of a conclusive ruling on, does the commission want to have a stance on whether or not this is the kind of system we should care to see, or whether or not it should be considered landscaping going forward. I recognize that the actual excavation is very, very minimal, and that the actual pull of water from the lake compared to many other activities that could be pulling water from the lake is also minimal. But it does affect the common ground lake that is shared by everyone who's around it, so it could be considered to be a public concern for people to, for this commission to look at. So I would just ask the commission to consider this tonight as to whether or not this is, does not need a permit at all, and it is considered as of right, and you need to do nothing further here, Mr. and Mrs. Zacchio, or if it is something you would like to see here and in the future.
Well, I have an opinion. I think they should get a permit for this, because they're doing something to the property. And I think, we haven't discussed since I've met you tonight, being the first night, what can be handled as an agent approval. But in my opinion, something this should get a permit and be an agent approval. You take a look at the site, see how their plan is to, what they're gonna put in the water to get the water out of the lake. If it's acceptable to you, then just approve it without coming before us. That's my opinion.
Right.
So,
I agree with that.
Yeah, me too.
I'd like to speak to this a little bit. I kind of prepared something here. You talked about the meeting with Pam. I have to say, I don't remember word for word what we talked about. We did talk about how they put the piping in on the lawn and that type of thing. My impression in leaving that meeting, whether we talked about how we were going to get the water or not, I don't recall. I don't recall. But I left that meeting with the assumption that we were okay to proceed. So this irrigation system is installed. I talked to people on the lake, like you referenced, Mike, that have irrigation systems, and draw from the lake. I talked to 2 vendors who have done systems on the lake, and interviewed them. I talked to Public Works, which I think Tony did that piece of it, talked to Public Works and talked about this. Never did anyone say, because we drew water from the lake, that we would need, that it was a regulated activity and that we would need a permit from this committee. Let's see. We did hire an electrician who pulled a permit. I mean, we basically tried to do everything by the book. We've been before this committee many times, and we certainly weren't trying to circumvent this commission by in any means. We felt
due diligence. We also feel, and I think you just said it, that we're the first homeowners,
You're the guinea pigs.
you know, we're the guinea pigs, and, you know, that's fine,
Why
but,
are we- You're not the
when
first one to
I
it
am
either.
very familiar with the ordinances. And to be perfectly honest with you, I looked at them from the inland wetlands, and it certainly doesn't mention sprinkler system or people who draw water from the lake for the use of their home. Pam mentioned that the DEP is not interested in
Anything
home.
more than 50,000 gallons, or right,
Yeah,
50,000,
yeah.
5,000,
And
some
I
crazy
followed
number.
up with that,
it's
and
an
they
enormous
only want to be involved when it's 500,000 gallons a day.
Pam,
what's your opinion on 50,000 gallons a day.
Whatever, so that we know, guidance, I had no idea that it was, I really didn't, you know, maybe I should have, shame on me, but I didn't know that it was from the lake. I thought that they were
Well, would
silly
any
of me,
other
I thought that
homeowner-
it was metered.
Would any other homeowner need a permit
I-
to put an irrigation system in?
I've been on the commission probably longer than cumulative than everybody else on the commission. I can only recall one other instance where an applicant, as part of their application process, included a sprinkler system drawing water from the lake. And that was on Lake, near Barton's Point, it's Lake Drive, Lake Drive. I don't even think the applicant has completed the project. There was a homeowner
Southergill?
who bought Southergill, who bought the abutting property
Yeah.
and put up a granite
Yeah, the
garage
garage.
or
It's a
whatever.
garage, yeah.
And they, in the process, because it was an extensive project, part of that project was to draw water from the lake, from that property, and track it all the way to both properties with one pump and so forth and so on. So I think the history of drawing water from the lake for irrigation almost doesn't exist in reality. There is none. I personally have a system. I never applied for a permit because there wasn't a need and there wasn't any regulations that said that I needed to, because the process is, you know, a trench is dug and a pipe is laid down and the trench is covered simultaneously as it goes along. So, you know, there's no stockpile, there's nothing that goes on.
The only reason, I did not mean to persecute in any way. I got here a month ago, and this was the first one of these that came to my desk, so I have had no experience. Every community does things differently, right? So this is just why I decided to bring this.
I think it's.
Good that we get out in the open.
No, I think it's worthwhile for a discussion. I think if somebody were to do like the Southern, if like the Southern Hills did, where there was an extensive project with landscaping and a wall and you know, that kind of thing, then coming before Pam or you for a conversation, it might be suggested that you need a permit or include it in your permit. Where it's a
But if it's
standalone.
just I
What?
mean, you would mention it just as part of the project, you know, you'd wanna, you do wanna know if it's.
Everything there being done, yeah.
Yeah, but if it's just an irrigation system, it sounds like you don't wanna, you're okay with it.
No.
You just do an agent approval?
All right, well, there's an as of right activity, there's an agent approval, and then it's what the commission reviews.
I think it's prudent that anybody
Landscaping
who,
is as of right.
I think it's prudent that anybody who wants to do something like that should come and talk about it. And if as a result of the conversation, it's a non-conversation, or it warrants an agent approval, that would make sense. I think we could be in 2 or 3 different places on this.
Yeah, I just wondered really what are you pointing to say that your commission, because of this ordinance right here, it says, you know.
The
that
regs, it's not an
applies.
ordinance, it's the
Impact.
regs.
So the explicit sanction of the Inland Wetlands Commission granted to it by Connecticut general statutes states that the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission has the right to review impacts on watercourses. Now, from a scientific standpoint, pulling any water from a watercourse is an impact. That water will be circulated through the pipes and then will go onto the lawn. This may change its thermal load and go back into the lake, which, if enough people were doing this, could change the lake's total thermal load. So it is an impact. Whether or not it is
a major impact or a significant impact, even though significant impact bears its own special meaning here, I'm using it colloquially, is a whole other question. Right, it's a whole other question. I took the words, we have the right to regulate impacts to watercourses, to say if we're drawing from the lake, that's an impact.
I just also want to let you know, that we've actually been drawing water from the lake since we've lived here.
We bought our first house in 1988, tore it down, built a garrison. We bought another piece of property, and then we bought the property where we are now. So for better than 30 years, I've been using my old pump to draw water from the lake to do all the grass. I have over 130 feet of land out where we live now that faces the water. And that's what I've been doing every summer, morning, noon, afternoon. But I'm getting older, the pump is getting much heavier, and the hoses are getting much longer. So we finally,
You're getting a lot
smarter.
And we're getting smarter.
And finally, my family kicking me all around, saying enough is enough. You've been talking about this for 10 years, and I have. And I finally, got a company in Simsbury, did a superb job. It runs off our phone. We
Off your
haven't
phone.
We only ran it twice.
Off your phone?
You don't really need it.
It's all automatic, it's connected to the weather station,
Yeah, it's
so it
connected.
knows
Oh,
what the
yeah.
humidity is, what the
Yeah, I
wind
can
is,
start
what the
right from
forecast is.
No, you
And
can't.
it won't turn on, it's gonna even think
Well,
about it.
I have a rain gauge on mine too.
I have one of
it's
those.
not-
Doesn't have a rain
That's
gauge.
sophisticated.
And it's sensor proof. I mean,
Yeah.
it senses if there's water on the, even dew, it won't go on.
Wow.
I mean, it's just.
That's top, that's a high technology stuff.
And
That's what, there, we have an app on our
like I
phone,
said,
like
I've been doing
everything
it for
else.
over 30 years. I
Okay,
mean,
but I think the issue here is,
Do you want to say it or not?
yeah.
Say
And
again, what's the
I
issue?
do think it's something that should be seen, because there may be companies who don't put it in as unobtrusively as your company does. Or maybe somebody decides they're gonna put it in themselves, and they dig big long trenches and stuff. So I think, I think it's okay to do. But I think it does need to come to us.
Come to you or an agent approval?
An agent approval.
Well, I
An
think
agent
it's-
approval,
I
okay,
think
so an agent approval is an application.
Yeah.
And it gets noticed in the newspaper, the decision. It's, it just doesn't come before you.
Right. Well, either one.
Because we don't know how many there are, we have no idea. I mean, the fact that their electrician pulled a permit, I gotta say, I don't think they all pull permits. So we really have no type of database of how many there are. Just like we don't have a database really of, I don't think we have actual hard numbers on how many draw water off the lake, like for
The
their
gentleman,
house.
the gentleman before here
Right.
brought water out
Well,
of it.
almost every home on
Cottage.
the lake
At
at
one
one
point.
point drew water because that was the only water there was.
There's still
So,
some do.
and second and third
Some
day
still
Yeah, the
didn't get
gentleman's
water.
sources.
Toilets
So
and
there's
showers.
still
Yeah.
people who
No, absolutely.
All right,
get other water.
So you'd want, it's not an as-of-right activity, so it would require an application, but it doesn't need to come to the commission, because, just so the commission knows, because I have a feeling that you'll probably be giving Michael agent approvals more frequently, and it'll lessen your burden too. He can always, he need not decide that. So if an applicant comes in and says, no, you gotta decide, nope, he can say, I'm not touching this, you're going to the
he could
commission.
say to them, it's not an
Yes.
as-of-right activity, which is for information only,
And I can
okay.
kick it to you.
And then you would refer the applicant to Pam to fill out an application.
There's as-of-right activity and there's regulated activity. It's still,
Regulated.
sounding like it's still you are considering this a regulated activity. Regulated activity means it requires an application. Planting petunias instead of impatiens is an as-of-right activity. You are still considering it a regulated activity, but one that can be undertaken and decided upon by the agent, is what it sounds like.
Yes, I would agree with that, with what you just said, that
Okay.
we should, that most everything, as the lake gets more and more use, even though people have been drawing stuff out of it for the past 60 years, but more and more, we have so much more activity that we need to keep track of on the lake that, we can do it with an agent determination. I would agree with that.
There you go.
So then our position tonight is we can accept and approve?
This one, certainly. And
And
with,
and
with
just
the
bring
commission
it to
and town's
closure.
gratitude for coming and being the guinea pig. Thank you.
Based on,
Sorry to waste your time.
Yes.
based on your visiting the site, can we move ahead and approve this?
Looks great. I wouldn't even know the irrigation system was there if you hadn't called me.
So why can't it just be an Asian approval?
Well, then,
Well, because it's here, it's a.
Well, it's already here. You guys can already approve it.
you know,
There's no point in kicking it back to me for me to do it tomorrow to.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're here and we can vote to approve it.
Yeah.
Do
And
we
then.
need, do we need a bond?
I think we can let it go for this one.
Okay.
how they do it.
Yeah.
No, what about it?
It's very cool.
What about, after it's done?
After the fact, the permit?
No, Jackie.
I guess my only suggestion is definition is.
I'm saying return the, return the money.
Dock and mooring.
It's not in the Dock and Mooring ordinance, it's in the inland wetlands, it's the regulations. That's where you wanna look. I'm just looking at the definition of
All right.
regulation.
Somebody might want to publicize.
Can we, somebody wanna make a you want, your
Yeah,
hand is
I'll-
up? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion to accept and approve application IWWC 21-33 for 114 Shore Drive for a lawn sprinkler system using lake water.
Is there a second? Jeff? Any discussion?
Thank you.
Any,
Thank you.
all in favor?
Survive the roast.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
The guinea pig roast.
We have,
Absolutely.
good night.
Good
We have
night.
one more item that we skipped over.
I will. Thank you very much.
No, yeah,
2131.
No, sure.
you skipped over. What? Yeah. All right, item 21-31, applicant is Gary Goulet. The owner is Jonathan Abrams, 632 East Wakefield Boulevard, and he's proposing a lot of things. Reset lower patio and steps, build new retaining wall and raised lawn area, install new paver patios, rebuild existing stone retaining wall, and install stone steps.
I spoke to Mr. Goulet today on the phone. So there's, all the rains have done a number on the site. There's some erosion. You can see in the pictures, that silt fence there along that material stockpile does not look like a silt fence is supposed to. That's not properly installed. And when I went out, it's still not properly installed a month later. And the result of that is there's been a significant amount of runoff and pooling of silt. Now, as far as I can tell, we're very fortunate. It just so happens that the dock is located at the base of the hill in the perfect place to catch the silt and pile it against the dock instead of pulling it into the lake. So most of the silt hasn't gone into the lake. We're lucky in
Some
that.
of it did.
I spoke to
There's a spot
Mr.
that went-
I spoke to Mr. Goulet today. He said that he's aware of the problem and claims that the issue is that 634 is currently doing work on their deck and have the right to go down that driveway and that hill to get access to the dock, and that because of this, every time he puts up a silt fence, they're taking it down. Was
Deck
his
or
story.
dock?
You know what? I
it is
can't
dock.
remember.
They have, that was the lady that I asked to pull over. She was on the Zoom meeting, I don't know, you know.
Oh,
that's-
yeah.
You know,
She was driving.
I believe
so
it
it
was a
should
dock.
only be a dock.
I believe it's a
They're
dock.
doing some
And-
patio work too.
And,
No, they're
no,
not.
they're not, no.
They shouldn't.
You know what it is?
I'm hoping not, Jeff, right?
I was there Monday, and they're improperly installing cobblestone underneath the deck to put a patio.
All right, so
I'll go out.
we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Just, I was there today, and the problem, and I met the owner, Abrams, he was there today. The problem is, according to the owner, he gave the neighbor's contract permission to use his property as a
Access.
right-of-way
An
access
access,
point.
yeah.
And as a result of that, there were, I don't know if you've seen, there were probably 2 steel girders 35 feet long on Wakefield Boulevard for several weeks that needed to get down there. And that's how they got down there on the property in question now, as opposed to the neighbor's property where the work was done.
I know some history behind this,
Yeah.
so we'll discuss that, and
Yeah.
that may be something that comes again before you.
And I think it behooves you to visit the neighbor's site with the application that they've been given permission and what to do, and sort of clear that up, so to speak. And,
But getting back to 632,
Yeah.
or the erosion, is it hard to address because of the work at 634?
Mr. Goulet told me that the work at 634 should be mostly done as of today, and that the silt fence should be going back up and not have to come back down. But I'm gonna go out and check tomorrow.
they were there today with bobcats and loading rocks and going back and forth. I didn't see them going up and down, but they were
Very
all,
active
and they were
construction
also,
site.
the majority of their parking of their vehicles was on the property in question here, and not the site that they're working on. So it's really, all right, so you're gonna visit
Are-
both
are-
sites?
And are you comfortable with 632, like that the erosion controls are gonna be to your satisfaction?
They better be.
Because otherwise,
There's a lot of erosion
I,
control that needs to go in
when our
there.
conversation with Nelligan, you may be able to issue, like,
Cease and desist.
no, even, like, just.
A stop work order until it's corrected.
Yes,
Yeah,
cause yes.
No, this
Like,
is,
You gotta show them you're serious and.
this is textbook, the entire site has been disturbed. I'll try to pin down Mr. Goulet and force these fixes, and if they're not fixed, promptly, I'll throw a stop work order on.
And also visit the other site.
Yeah.
To make sure that Goulet is not getting blamed for the work that they gave them permission to sort of get to, on this site.
And we'll check out both 632 and 634.
Damn, there is no permit for,
Nope. No, there was many discussions about it.
All right,
So that should be a motion to continue that one would be
yes.
in order, Mr. Chair.
I'll make that motion that we continue application, 21-31, 632 East Wakefield Boulevard. Do I have a second? Andrea, all in favor? Okay. All right, agent determinations, I don't see anything other than what you've been doing.
No determinations yet.
Warnings,
Sure, quickly walk through these for the lateness of the hour. Parcel opposite 215 West Wakefield Boulevard, owned by one Mr. Bruce. This is a lot that there is some uncertainty, much as we found earlier today with the individuals who own 711 East Wakefield. There is some uncertainty as to precisely where the boundaries of some town properties end. Mr. Bruce, it seems like some of his construction once upon a time was on town property. As a result, that needs to stop. But this was discovered while he was tearing out his pre-existing deck to put in a new deck. So that work is stopped halfway through. There's some, as you can imagine, with a construction site that's been exposed and stopped halfway through, there are erosion controls, but they're kind of becoming inadequate because of the long term of the kind of way the site has been lying fallow. It's ongoing, and there are continued discussions with Mr. Bruce in the planning office and Attorney Nelligan just to try to sort this whole thing out. But no big motions are happening right now, to the best of our knowledge. 348 East Wakefield Boulevard. This is your Marilyn Monroe chair.
Yep.
We spoke about this earlier today. North Main Street, 18.1 acre parcel located behind 493. Pam, would you?
So you'll.
that's new.
It's been carried because the work began, this is gonna be a clearing matter. It began, and then it stopped, and then, you'll probably take a look at it before August.
So I'll be able to talk more about that.
So is that, I was there on Monday also. You really can't see the clearing, it's up behind the house. Is it?
Yeah, I don't know what that road is that leads into
So
it,
the next one down, the next one heading north, there's a driveway that comes back that way?
which he's used that to access,
That's his
that's not his property, no.
It's not his
He's just, it's where the fire occurred on North Main Street.
That's what you
And it's held by,
Up on the left there, maybe for
yeah, where the house looked like,
House was.
yes.
So that's what he
So
uses
it,
for access?
yes, so, yep, So that one, will be, probably before you sooner or later, in one way or another, with an application.
So you're gonna check that out, Mike, and see
Yep.
if there's actual
That's right,
clearing?
timber I'm putting it on my list tomorrow.
Clear cut is your term.
I'll go tramp around in the woods and look at it.
Do we need Michael here anymore, because he has to pick up someone at the
Oh,
airport?
it sounds like we're wrapping up, right?
Yep,
Alright.
we're almost done, and
You
she
good?
hasn't landed yet.
Are you
so-
good?
Yep,
Okay,
nope, it's
all
fine.
right. Go ahead. Communications and bills?
No bills is the best kind of bills.
No, the
Any-
the Beaver thing was the communication, and
Oh,
it
okay.
sounds like, you know, if Public Works, all right, so this was Bart with Beavers. What if it was a private party with Beavers? Do you want, New Hartford did wanna see Beaver, cause but Michael, what do you think? But then, the Beaver expert, we had this big discussion the other day, and it's like, well, it's
So-
up to let's try to find out from the commission.
I'm a big environmental softie, full disclosure. I'm a conservation biologist first and foremost. So the idea of me personally having to harm animals makes me sad. However, beavers, as wonderful and brilliant as they are as nature's little engineers, can cause serious problems for people's properties. When they build dams and it starts to back up into people's properties, particularly if the dam is on town's property and this is causing an issue where it's going to cause damage to people's properties, we need to destroy the dam. Or we need to find a way to divert water around the dam. And unfortunately,
Relocate the beavers?
great question. Simple answer,
private land.
not easily. As much as that would be the ideal answer, they're not like homing pigeons. They don't go back to wherever they're going. But it's not super easy to relocate beavers for biological reasons that I used to know but are slightly fuzzy in my brain right now. Relocation isn't particularly easy. So if you destroy their dam and it convinces them to move, they'll move, and then they're not your problem anymore. But forced relocation isn't always viable, and if you can't divert and you keep destroying the dam and they just keep building it back up, sometimes the only real thing to do is call a trapper and hunt them, which isn't great. No one really likes killing beavers. It's not, the 1800s anymore. We don't need the hats. But I don't know that.
How many beavers does it take? Are we talking?
Two
beavers?
Yeah. So
Not
So
20
the way
or 50
no.
or
The way
100
beavers.
beavers out
So the
there?
way beavers work is they pair bond.
I
right?
wish that plane landed. This conversation is going nowhere.
No.
It is. This is interesting stuff. You gotta get it
so-
out.
You wanna see it.
Do you care about seeing beaver stuff?
So what are we gonna do? We gonna blow it up?
No, you take in a backhoe and you just break it out. Basically what beavers do is they build a dam to build up water, and they build a lodge with the entrance. It's a big pile, hollow wood. Entrance is below the water. When they build up the water, they build the dam, the water comes back, only they can get in and out, so they're safe from predators. That's why beavers do what they do. You break the dam, their home is no longer safe, they rebuild the dam, you break the dam, they move. That's the hope anyway.
Why
Sometimes they
they're so
just keep
busy.
building it up.
Okay.
Do you need to see
So
beaver
what's
things?
the question, is
Do-
that
does
we're comfortable with Michael making the determination on beaver issues?
Or is it just something that homeowners do because they're protecting their property? Where it's not an agent.
Wetlands area.
It is a
You're
wetlands.
Oh,
No,
it's-
I think we have to, Michael has to decide.
You know what? This is the first conversation about beavers in 20 years. Really?
Been lucky.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
people have been shooting
Well,
them
I
wearing
also,
hats.
I feel like it's a
Silence is
wetlands
bliss.
area, it's under our purview, and if the beavers, what happens maybe sometimes is that people start digging, as we know, when excavators show up, things tend to change, right? So people pull out a beaver dam, before you know it, they've actually diverted something way far away and changed it and modified it. And I think, it is worth a quick, putting an application or overseeing it, because it's wetlands, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's
But
not
we'll
gonna
never-
harm.
It's excavation and wetlands.
Yeah, we may never know. Yeah, and do an agent determination, but I think it is under
But
our
if someone
purview.
is decent enough to call or ask where a beaver dam is noted, or you get a neighbor that is beaver friendly and sees the other neighbor with a
Yeah.
backhoe out there, and we get a phone call, we would do a cease and desist before the property
Yeah,
owners.
it's still a
right.
disturbance.
So you'd wanna see it.
Yeah, I would.
Although,
I think that that's
okay.
reasonable.
Like
Within
All
the
right.
scope
I'm about to buy a property that has a beaver dam on it.
Interesting. Wow. All right. Where's that? Is it around here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Industrial Drive.
So,
No, up on Grand.
Any update on the catch basins, guys? Okay.
Sorry, I meant
Well,
to
they're still
Monday,
working. I see them. They're going around.
is
It's,
I
the catch
hear a lot
basin?
of people
We-
complain about
we-
how poorly they're built.
We've been very concerned over the years that the catch basins on the lake are not maintained at all, and they truly haven't been maintained very much at all. And we sort of put together a couple of people from here to meet with Jim Rollins periodically to get an update on that particular thing. Most of the catch basins aren't functioning the way they should, and they need to be vacuumed out.
Which
He
they are
is
doing.
doing that.
I spoke to Jimmy late last week, about the catch basins. He mentioned that they do have the vacuum truck. They are trying to get routine vacuuming of them into Public Works schedule.
They are.
So it is on their radar.
Continuing, yeah.
And that's the point. We just don't want it to sort of fade away. And that's why we've asked a couple of the people here to meet with Jim not regularly, but periodically to keep us up to date. Jackie, anything with Highland Lake? And Mary Ann?
The association had its annual meeting, this past Saturday. They had over 100 people there, which is more than they ever had.
How many?
Over 100.
At their
But
meeting?
They offered, they offered a coupon with a beer for all of those who were paid attendance. So you offer beer and they'll come.
The food was great too.
Where was the meeting?
It was at the little
Red Brewery?
Red
Oh,
Brewery.
it was at the brewery.
And,
Great
I don't know if you know, they're putting up having a sign put up at the boat ramp, at the boat launch,
It's up.
and this is the sign.
It's up.
It's up
Yeah,
already?
yeah.
Okay.
What
So
does
that's
the sign
all.
say?
It's basically alerting the
Good.
foreigners, the people who bring their boats to the lake,
Okay.
about, different
Anybody
aspects
else
of.
want one?
No, that's all.
The herbicide application.
But
What are the chances we could get the state to put a boat washing station in?
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh like that.
I actually personally experienced it up in Massachusetts, as I said, this is a customer of mine, where we put the boat in the lake, and they stopped us.
but honestly,
And they inspected the boat to make sure the boat busted on it, the boat for the IDs on it, before we put it in that lake. But I'm not surprised to see stuff like this coming around
I haven't seen it.
from the state, right? This is the state?
No,
That's a state
No,
thing.
this is from wetlands. This is wetlands.
No, it's Highland
Or Highland Lake?
Yeah,
Watershed.
yeah, Highland Lake, I meant,
But
yeah.
yeah, so
I think.
I won't be surprised if the state steps in and says,
You know, at one point, there was an agent from the state sort of monitoring what went on. I don't know if he monitored that there was a parking space for the person putting a boat in,
yeah.
or he was monitoring the cleanliness of the boats and the
Probably
edges.
supposed to do both, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if he was
Probably
doing
did.
it.
There's something to consider in New Hartford, because one of my kids did it one summer. They funded a position which functioned not as an inspector, like to stop you, but as like more or less education.
Oh.
Where they would, one of my kids did it, and they would just discuss,
At a boat launch?
Yep, and just enlighten them and, not really being, intrusive and say, oh, let me look. It wasn't an inspection, it was just, hey, did you know, here's some information on it, here's what you can do. So that might be something that you encourage here.
You know what, I don't tend to put my boat in on weekends or when that agent is out there, so I should stop there one Saturday and just talk to the guy. It may behoove, just from an informational point of view of what he's doing, and I'll do that, and I'll get back to
You
you guys.
use that, don't you live on the lake?
Yeah, but I have to get put my boat into
Oh,
the water.
oh, once a
So
year,
I need
oh, I
the,
thought- okay,
once
yeah,
in,
yeah.
once out,
Yeah, I got
unless
you.
I need a repair or something.
Yeah, I got you.
There are some properties that have their own, way into the water, I don't.
The final thing, even though, the final thing, it's not on the agenda, but I would mention it because it's noted here. And you were talking about it with invasives on boats. The Highland Lake Watershed Association, in conjunction with the town
town's purchasing department did get its application in with the state DEP, and that application of the two chemical defoliants is happening tomorrow.
Starting tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's starting tomorrow. That's going to be diquat is being used to kill some species, and this other thing called Procelicor is being used to kill another species. The species that are being targeted are both invasives. They're being targeted in high-density areas where people would normally swim. So it's a targeted application. However, it's noted on the town's website right now that there are recommendations for human health. Diquat is more toxic for human health than Procelicor. Procelicor is a hormone. I'm not going to go into it right now. You guys aren't in my biology class. Point being, 1 day after application, it's recommended that no animals are exposed to the water. We don't use it for animal drinking. 3 days after, it's not used for human drinking either, which means through Sunday, the 25th, it's recommended that you don't use it for pulling off the lake for own drinking if you get that. That's been posted on the town's website since Monday, and this is a standard warning whenever we do this weed application, so people should know about it. We've been trying to make it known. But in case anybody doesn't know that and you want to let them know, there is a 1-3-5 day what's the water 100% safe to use schedule out there, just so everybody's aware.
Where on the town website is it?
News and
It's
announcements.
posted around the lake too.
A lot of the,
It's posted on.
Mary Ann, a lot of the poles along the lake,
I must be blind.
they're yellow signs.
Not as many as I thought.
It's under
we would
news and
have.
announcements.
There's quite a few.
Where is it on the website?
News and announcements,
It's
like
on
on
the
the
Highland
front
Lake
page, as soon
website.
as you hit it.
Oh, yeah, warning, weed treatment, okay.
That is
Several times, so people are confused a little.
Right, okay.
That is everything from me.
Well, Mike, it's great to meet you.
Excellent
It's
to
a
be
whole
here.
different, it's a whole different thing
You're,
with you here.
yeah, you're a nice addition.
And
to
I do
this
like what
commission.
you're doing with this heads up kind of stuff.
I will continue prepping this.
Yeah, that,
Huge.
it just sort of gives us a sense of your involvement, number one, and, you know, your input, number two, so we're good. Everybody good? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Unanimous? All right, thank you.
9:48, much better than last meeting based on the schedule.
Yeah.
We got everything done.
Started at 6.
Hi.
Let's carry these back to the room. I gotta go get
It's a whole different thing having a field day. It's like 90 days.
And, you know, I think we're also moving the agenda along.
Thanks.
Jackie,
Yeah.
I sent you an